€83,431.13. That's the amount I spent over the last 6 months to create this video. This video is the result of more than 2 years of work developing my SEO agency GEO. And to teach you today how to do the same, let me be clear. I have no course, no coaching, no support to sell you. This video is a pure gift to the internet, to thank YouTube for allowing me to build a community and help as many people as possible. Entrepreneurs who currently have an agency or want to start one, and above all want to grow it, to scale it online. In this video, we'll look at the GEO and SEO market, how to find clients for your agency, what offers to set up, and what my own offers are. The best sellers I've been able to set up, how to deliver your agency's services, what service offerings exist in SEO and GEO, how to structure your business with the full software stack, organizing with your freelancers, the legal structure to adopt for optimal tax efficiency, and also what are the best internal organizational structures. For your own team, how to communicate with your team, but also with your clients to maximize profits and maximize profitability, how to recruit talent that is as affordable as possible and as productive as possible. And finally, how to increase the value of your agency so that one day you can sell it and walk away with a large sum. And at the end, we'll talk about a gift I have for you at the end of this video. Let's get straight to the heart of the matter. So, before we dive into the very first topic, which is the SEO and GEO market, I'd like you to settle into a room where you're comfortable and relaxed. Maybe put on some headphones, grab a bottle of water to drink during this video. It's going to be a very long one. I'm going to take my time to be extremely precise with the words I use, so that they are of the highest value to you and easily actionable. You don't need to take any notes. Everything I say in this video, you'll get structured documents and condensed reports with the links to the tools I mention inside. Don't worry, if you stay until the end of this video, which 99% of people won't do, you'll get 100% of the value. Actionable. I've been preparing this video for over 2 weeks, 12 hours a day, so don't worry. I've thought of everything. Let's get started right away with the GEO and SEO market. First, why should you listen to me up to this point? My name is Thibaut Bessin-Magdelin, and I come from the very bottom. I started working at the age of 16 in Switzerland, where I was a machine operator in a carpentry company, timber framing, lumberyard. Then I worked as a temp, simply at some warehouses. I was a picker and spent all day sorting parcels. Then I worked in a factory, which was even less interesting, in Bonneville, where I spent all my summers working. As you can see here, it was 2 months, 1 month, 2 months. It was every summer. I worked so I could buy myself a computer and save some money. Then I went to business school after getting my high school diploma, and I went to do an internship in Malta for 4 months. At the deployer. That taught me what work ethic is and how you can structure and grow an agency. Then I created my first platform called lecreme.ie, which I sold. Then I founded an agency called OVRank, an SEO agency, and today I'm going to reveal the entire back end of this agency to you. And finally, today I'm focusing on it full-time on Sorank, a SEO software for agencies, SEO consultants, SEO freelancers, but also for the general public, for companies that want to have good search engine rankings. So that's already my background. Next, what are my concrete results in SEO? As I mentioned, I created lecreme.ai, which is a site I recently sold, and it's an affiliate platform. I listed more than 1,400 tools. Across the entire site, there are more than 2,500. And with these 2,500 tools, I make money in 2 different ways. First, thanks to the affiliate links I set up, I regularly earn commissions that range from a few dollars to several dozen or even hundreds of dollars by bank transfer. And also, I sell blog articles and placements in the marketplace. So now, for new software to be listed, for that it's a paid service because I offer them significant visibility. So this is a small business I started on my own with no budget. And what's very interesting and noteworthy about this site is that it surpassed 10,000 visitors in less than 90 days and 100,000 visitors in under 12 months. If you don't believe me, go check out my first videos on my YouTube channel. I documented the entire creation of this site. After this great success, I decided to launch OVRank, which is a SEO GEO agency. We supported more than 100 clients in 24 months. And in fact, last year, in 2025, we added more than 1 million visitors and over 2 million euros in additional revenue for our clients in 2025. And behind this agency, I systematized everything, the offers and the services we had to deliver, using Make, lots of AI and custom-coded tools. So basically, our clients are in a wide variety of different fields. whether it's in training, e-commerce, software, or service provision in the French, Belgian, and Swiss markets, Spanish, and even in the United Arab Emirates. We have clients there, so the agency is doing very well. We've made a lot of sales, a lot of subscriptions, and speaking of that, we were properly taxed in France, paying social security contributions. When I was self-employed and then when I switched to a company, of course, there were VAT payments. These are things that nobody shows you on the internet when they talk about their success. Personally, I want to show you everything. Obviously, I can't show you the agency's full turnover, but with around 100 clients and the offers we have, with the pricing that I'll show you later, you can easily do a quick mental calculation to get an estimate. Today, I'm focusing full-time on SoRank, which is an SEO software to help you reach the top spot on Google ChatGPT. And also, if you have clients who want to achieve this goal, to deliver results for them as quickly as possible. Alright, now that I've introduced myself very briefly, why am I actually helping you? Why am I helping you? Why did I spend more than 80,000 euros to make this video? And why have I been taking the time for the past 2 weeks to structure this video? The agency model is the easiest way to go from 0 to 50,000 euros per month. Because you're directly selling your expertise. Every client you sign generates revenue immediately. Growth is fast, but it's linear and limited by human time. Now today I have a software business. Software is much harder at the beginning because you have to build the product before you can sell it. However, once it's launched, it becomes exponential because the product can be sold infinitely without proportionally increasing costs. That's the business I have today. But today, I'm going to show you how I got here. I'm not going to teach you how to launch a software business. I've never done that. However, I am going to teach you how to create an agency because that's what allowed me to travel for more than 3 years. So basically, an agency is the simplest vehicle to go from 0 to 100,000 euros in assets. And software is the best business model to go from 100,000 to 1 million. What I'm offering you today is that by watching this video and combining LinkedIn, YouTube, and AI, you'll be able to land big clients. And when I say big clients, I mean you'll be able to get companies that pay you several thousand euros every month, just like I did with my own business, with my own agency. Then by the end of this video, you'll have so many clients that you'll be thinking, okay, I'm going to need to start getting organized because I don't know how to deliver for all these clients and I need help. So what you'll do is what I did. Hire freelancers, pay them extremely high rates, sign up for a ton of subscriptions, and try to connect all these subscriptions and software together, only to end up at the end of the month with a 30% profit margin. And in an agency, a 30% margin is really bad. Or you can use my software, which will allow you to profit a lot more money while spending less for your clients. Basically, it's a win-win deal. If you have clients, I have a client who will be you. So my goal is for you to make money with this video. I have a software today. So my goal is for you to have so many clients with your agency that you can't even manage them all yourself, and that my software allows you to manage them so quickly that you'll make money by choosing my software instead of the others. The others will just slow you down. The biggest companies don't need discipline to last, they have systems. And that's really what I want you to take away from the first few minutes of this video. If today, Apple, Coca-Cola, and Nvidia are so big and so highly valued, it's because internally they have systems, they have processes. It's not because their recruitment is better than others. It's not because their employees are more motivated in the morning or more disciplined. No, it's simply because internally there are processes. Thank you. Extremely well-oiled, optimized for years, and still being improved. If you also want to learn, you can go to Google Search Central. It's basically Google's documentation that allows you to know absolutely everything about SEO. However, be prepared. There are more than 500 pages. I've read them all. I really did read all of them. Then I tried buying a few SEO courses. Please do not buy SEO courses. Don't buy SEO coaching. Doesn't he? No information. It's 2026. We have artificial intelligence now. We don't buy information anymore, please. SEO has been around for decades and decades. This video is all you need to rank yourself and your clients. So if you have any questions, ask the AI or just go straight to this documentation. But please keep your money, treat yourself, go to a restaurant if you really want to spend that money. But don't buy a course. Now, why start an SEO agency? Where does the high demand come from? And why is there low competition? To determine whether it's worthwhile for you to get into SEO or to keep growing your SEO agency, it's important to see if there's demand. Because at the end of the day, if no one can pay you, you won't be able to increase your income or grow your business. Since 2004, SEO has never really declined and has only continued to grow. SEO agencies as well, they experienced a huge spike, especially during the COVID period. Afterwards, their revenues dropped back down, let's say, to normal levels, and then it kept increasing. The same goes for GEO agencies, meaning those aiming to be listed in AIs, they've seen an explosion as well. SEO with AI has also seen a boom. And actually, most people think that since AI arrived, everyone is going to be replaced, and a huge number of people will lose their jobs, which is true in some cases. But where most people think AI has automatically met certain needs, I actually believe it has created a massive new one. And this massive new need is to be referenced in AI, to be cited by AIs. Since October 31st, 2024, ChatGPT search has been launched. And as a result, this has caused an explosion in SEO because over the past 34 years, literally, SEO, it was always the same thing. It was all about ranking on Google. Then in 2024, literally, so for the past 2 years of SEO, a new version of search optimization has emerged, which is GEO. Now, be careful, this is the global market for generative AI. So it's not just about GEO, but it clearly shows that within those billions, a few billion will surely be attributed to GEO, knowing that the SEO market is already valued at over 231 billion by 2033. Here, we have the demand. We've confirmed that there is huge demand. In France, there are more than 1,000 municipalities with over 10,000 inhabitants. So more than 10,000 inhabitants means there are businesses, it means there are factories. That is to say, there are real infrastructures. And in France, there are only 3,000 SEO agencies. That means, theoretically, 3 SEO agencies per city. That's not a lot. It's not a lot, especially considering that most of them on LinkedIn don't even exist anymore. These are agencies that have closed down, or else these are profiles that were just created like that, but they're not real agencies. SEO, so there is a real need, a growing need, as we can see on Google search, and the competition is rather weak. Especially since this competition hasn't communicated very well. They make very little use of the channels we know as young people, like social networks. So there's a real opportunity here. And in the end, we're not selling products. We're not selling e-commerce items for 30 euros. We're selling services ranging from 500 to 3,000 euros per month. And what are we going to sell for these services? There are 6 things we're going to sell. First, for Google, we'll have website optimization. So site performance, content creation, and link buying. For ChatGPT, we'll have content creation for AIs, buying links cited by AIs and reputation management. These 6 points, I'll explain to you later how I delivered them in my agency. Next, here's the entire sales process. Either we do prospecting or we create content, or we can launch ads that will redirect all our clients to a discovery call with us. Then, we'll give them an automated audit, we'll have a sales call with them, and then we'll onboard them, meaning we'll welcome them and properly integrate them into our company. We'll deliver the service and communicate well with them in order to offer them other service options. That's going to be the structure of our agency. If you want, you can take a screenshot right now. Next, you'll need to understand the environment you'll be working in. In SEO, there are several players. There will be the tools, SEO agencies, you'll be part of that. SEO freelancers, whom you can recruit for your agency, SEO trainers, whom I mentioned earlier in a more indirect way, and SEO influencers, meaning people who create a lot of content. In fact, I could be put in this category of SEO influencer since I create a lot of content. And finally, in 6th place, link platforms. So platforms where you buy links, backlinks. I'll explain later what that is if you don't know what it is. So what do we sell as an SEO agency? Go, what is it? We don't just sell a website. We don't just sell blog articles. We sell a result. We sell more traffic coming from AIs, more leads, meaning emails, and more conversions. With your service, you can literally announce during the sales call that you will have a direct impact on visits. Brand awareness, getting qualified leads and conversions, that's what's powerful. And that's why we can sell such expensive services, because we're extremely close to conversion. And in business, the closer you can get to conversion and thus almost guarantee a result, the more you can sell your services at a high price. Before moving on to the second part, which is simply acquisition and how to find customers through social networks. Without spending any money, €1 in advertisement, I would like you to add a comment. This is the first time in over 100 videos I've made on YouTube that I'm asking you to leave a comment. So leave an honest comment with the keyword SEO agency or GEO agency to show the algorithm that you want to see more valuable videos. And it helps me personally a lot. As you can see, I've made more than 168 videos completely for free. So even if you don't have an agency, write, "I don't have an SEO agency, but the video is great," and add the comment. Please, it will help me a lot. Now that you've done that, we can get started on how to find clients. So that was the smallest part of the whole video. Now, concretely, we're going to look at all the methods I've used over the past 2 years to find clients. And honestly, there are some things that are a bit cringe and still hard for me to accept, but we're going to dive right in. First, the platforms. So let me remind you, the goal is to attract qualified leads, and what's the problem? The problem is that everything works, but not at the same cost. You can run ads, host events, do affiliate marketing, cold call, cold email, use social media, short formats like TikTok, Reels, Instagram. You can also do long form content, like what you're watching right now, on YouTube. You can do partnerships, you can even optimize your own website for search. Everything works. And that's exactly the problem. Sometimes you might start out with an acquisition channel like Instagram and get a few results. So you might get a few clients subscribing to your service. But over the long term, when you keep doing this, you see that the results are not satisfying at all. And that's why I'm going to save you months and months and months of pulling your hair out. Because I've tested a ton of things, and we're going to see it all right now. My best performing content, the results of that content, my content creation processes, the results I've been able to achieve, and then the system I put in place to capture as many people as possible. Let's dive right in. Let's start with Instagram. I've had 2 Instagram accounts. Right now, this is my main account, my personal branding account that I've always had. I had an account, the very first one I created, where I made a lot of memes. Basically, I made funny videos that I copied from the United States. My goal was simply to get as many views as possible because I thought if I get 10 million views, I might have companies reaching out to me because they randomly came across my account. In the end, I got over 20 million views on that account, reaching only new people. I made 3 types of content. The first type of content was a bit humorous, like a movie clip repurposed to explain a situation to people. Then I would use a comic book visual. There were quite a few that worked like that in the United States. So, these are visuals generated by ChatGPT, inspired by American designs, and then I would do a top 4 of tools. So imagine being ranked number 1 without spending a single cent on advertising. And there you go, I would put the overrank logo right here. To create this type of content, I had a very simple process. I would look at accounts in the United States that produced a lot of AI content and whose posts always went viral. And I would send all that content to an editor, and she would make the videos for me. So that's the process. Identify the reels, validate the format, download the video, translate and rephrase, add text on screen, translate, then repurpose for Instagram, TikTok, and Shorts, publish everything, and analyze what works. It brought me 0 clients. I got 20 million views, it brought me 0 clients, and I spent several thousand euros on the editor who did all that for me, because obviously I didn't just make one video. I made 172 of them, so I really went all in on this. I made stories, I made calls to action. It's very difficult. Maybe it'll work for you. In any case, for me, that's not at all what worked. Still, I made 172 of them. So that's almost 6 months of hard work every day on my personal branding account. So yeah, I have photos of myself of who I am. And next to that, I have reels. And I made a lot of reels in 2024, including one reel that got 1.9 million views. And all in all, across all my other content, I got 5 million views. And as a result, that's how I got all my followers. Actually, all the followers I have now, it's thanks to a type of content that worked extremely well at the time. It was literally reaction videos. So basically, I would take a video from the French market that had gone viral that week on TikTok. I would pick it. You can go check on my account, Insta, after this video, which is going to last several hours, I suppose. You'll be able to take that video and see what I'm talking about. Basically, I take a hook at the start of the video, a viral video, so I start with just the girl. Then I cut after a few seconds. And then I explain how they can take advantage of this trend to launch their store or to develop their SEO. That video brought me 20,000 followers. So, one video, 20,000 followers, 41,000 saves, 27,000 likes, 69,000 interactions. So I was only reusing viral videos on TikTok with over 100,000 views in order to react to them about SEO. So here the goal was really to talk as much as possible about SEO, and it was super relevant. And I got so many followers because I managed to combine virality and relevance on SEO. Then I also did visuals, so visuals generated by ChatGPT, inspired by American designs, here as well. But in this case, there was much, much less interaction, because as a result, my face wasn't in it and there was no connection to SEO. And finally, popularization. This works really well. It's what I'm doing right now, and it allows me to have much lower costs related to video editing. So for these, I don't even add subtitles, and I always use the same procedure as I do for all the other content. I go on TikTok from my computer, switch to the American market, turn on my VPN, watch all the TikToks from the week that talked about SEO, and I copy the format. Let's say it's a bit like copying a trend. It's just that, for example, there was someone who did 5 years of ADS in 50 seconds. I took the same content and applied it to SEO, and so I really shared my own content, what I know. And so that really allows you to get a lot of interactions. And now what works really well on Instagram is connecting ManyChat to your account so you can offer a gift at the end of your video. People will comment and then you'll have an open conversation with them where you can collect their email and phone number. And that's something people are really interested in. The process is pretty simple. As I mentioned, we're going to identify content that's already gone viral on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and then list them in a database. So that's the type of content. On Instagram and TikTok, it needs to have more than 100,000 views. And we'll be able to search for all those keywords in the American and French markets to find all the content that's already relevant to our topic. And if we can't find any, we'll try to look in other topics like marketing. And that brought me 4 or 5 clients, if I'm not mistaken, when I was making videos like that. So yes, the conversion rate is very, very low. I got over 5 million views. You can do the math because I know I gave the right numbers. 5 million views. For 1,000th of 1% of clients, that's very low. I got fewer than 10 clients thanks to Instagram, whereas I had more than 100 clients in total. And they didn't come from Instagram, even though I made hundreds of reels on each account. Then I tried TikTok. Now with TikTok, I really didn't bother at all. I just reused exactly the same content as on Instagram. And I posted them on TikTok. So for a while, my content really blew up on TikTok. But since then, my account has really died. But I keep sharing on there because for me, it's really secondary. So I have several pieces of content that did well. This video, which got over 100,000 views, I think it got 37,000 likes. So it's often hacks, tools, and tips to save time or money in a simple and fast way. Next, taking a controversial stance on a business or social topic. Then we have everything related to opportunities. Shiny object, new business to launch, which works really, really well on TikTok. All of that, it's exactly the same process as before. We list the reels that performed really well with the keywords, and then we save them. As you can see here, I made videos for my editor to explain to her how to do it. Today, I no longer have an editor, I take care of it myself, since these are very simple videos that I'm making right now. But how to create processes, I'll explain that to you later in the video. And so TikTok brought me in a little more than Instagram, because sometimes there were highly qualified people who came from TikTok. So there you go, TikTok must have brought me in. Maybe, let's say, since I got a lot fewer views on TikTok, it must have also brought me in, maybe 3 or 4 clients. Now let's move on to YouTube. YouTube is immediately much more interesting because with YouTube, I maybe made fewer videos and it didn't take me more time than the other types of content. Actually, right now, you see, I prepared this video a lot with the resource I'm presenting to you, but it doesn't take me any longer to film than the length of the video itself. And that's why it's really interesting. On YouTube, you don't have to become an influencer for your agency overnight to find new clients. I've made videos that have gotten over 8,000 views, and these are highly qualified views because here I'm really talking about traffic, automation, SEO, optimizing an article. So these are extremely, extremely relevant videos for my topic and my target audience. And in the end, that adds up to several tens of thousands of views. What do I share in these videos? First, I make a Loom video like the one I just did, where I present in detail the processes of my agency and how I operate. Then my strategies. I present a case study that supports my strategy with my unique advantages. And finally, something I like to do from time to time is put a slightly catchy title like this, where I write, private video, do not publish, not public, and I specifically include the keyword strategy, like, is there 1 million visitors? And as a result, that brought me quite a few visitors and quite a few clients. Well, quite a few prospects who had already watched my videos but had never taken action. And by watching this video, they thought, okay, your offer is great, I want us to work together. How did I structure it? So here, you're going to see my entire setup. I already have a list of topics to share that are really important for educating my target audience. Because generally YouTube is more of a conversion channel than an acquisition channel, I'm going to deliberately send people to YouTube from LinkedIn and from Instagram. For them to really spend time with me, they usually need to spend about 10 hours with me before booking a call. It's super important to clearly define the list of topics you want to cover and then prepare the video. So for the video, here's my current setup. So I have a Rode mic and I always carry a backup mic with me. I have a MacBook Pro and a small lamp that lights me up. My phone allows me to get really good quality. For editing software, I use CapCut. For screen recording software, I usually use Screen Studio for short videos. Since this is going to be a video that lasts several hours, I'm not taking any chances. I'm using the Mac's default recorder. Everything I'm showing you on the screen right now is on Miro. How to create and edit a YouTube video description. It's super important to have a good YouTube description as it really helps you get properly referenced. So for that, what I do is I go directly to my video, the one I've imported, and I just copy the video link. Then I go to a tool that allows me to transcribe all the audio content into text. With this text content, I send it to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT, it's actually a customized ChatGPT. With this big prompt, it will be able to automatically rewrite the description for me, including all my social media links. And the chaptering is done automatically. Chaptering is super important. By the way, you can see the chaptering right now under this video. It was done automatically by AI. This helps you find your way around easily, and it really drastically improves your ranking on YouTube. Matthew Beam is an American who makes entertainment videos, but every time he gets millions of views on his videos, and he has over 1 billion views to his name, so I think he has something to teach us. And he always writes ultra-optimized descriptions for SEO, stuffing in as many keywords as possible. Personally, I haven't gone that far with optimization. However, I still set up an ultra-optimized description under all my videos. With a solid text, of course. SEO, plus all the links to my social networks and chapter markers. So next, you'll need to create 3 different thumbnails. YouTube allows us to set up 3 different thumbnails for our video. So we might as well use them to maximize the number of people who discover our video and especially to improve the click-through rate. The 3 thumbnails will be shown to different types of viewers, and depending on which thumbnail gets the most clicks, that's the one we'll keep. So generally, I recommend that you don't make the thumbnails yourself, but instead hire a virtual assistant to do them for you. Finally, to make sure the thumbnail is really good, it needs to be readable and easily recognizable on all devices. Here, as we can see, it's a bit of a shame that I'm facing away. It would have been better if I were with a light background, because it's hard to distinguish me otherwise. To maximize your engagement when publishing the video, you'll be able to share the content on other platforms, and you can use this little tool that lets you create a really beautiful visual result. With just one click, you can import your video and display this image, which you can then download and share on other platforms. So then you'll be able to open it on 3 other devices and watch the entire video, plus like it, plus leave a comment. That really helps a lot. I didn't really do it much, but for the few videos where I did, I immediately saw a spike in views at the start when I had a few devices to generate a bit of initial engagement on my videos. And then what's really important is to cut it into shorts and put the link to the full video in the description. If you can do this on your YouTube channel, that's great. So you can redirect as many people as possible from your shorts to your long video. That's it for YouTube. And all of that still brought me about 2% of appointments. So it's really much better than the results we saw earlier. Now let's move on to LinkedIn, the acquisition channel that brought me 90% of my clients last year. And honestly, I regret not starting on LinkedIn sooner because the results I was able to get were just absolutely crazy. So LinkedIn, here's my profile. You can go and analyze how I created it, but now it's more tailored for C rank. So up until now, what I had even set up for my agency was a selection of posts and then a direct link to your website to book a call with you. Then your posts will be displayed. In terms of content performance, I'll show you the numbers directly, even though that's really not what matters here. What matters here isn't getting the most impressions at all. It's really about getting the most qualified inbound leads. So concretely, I had 800,000 impressions over the last 365 days, and I wasn't consistent at all. And I think that's a problem for me. I could have made a lot more money, but of course, when you run an agency, you have other issues to deal with besides acquisition. So I gained 4,000 followers last year from 65 posts. So 65 isn't a lot, honestly, considering everything else I could have posted. Here are the types of posts I made, and we'll start with the ones that performed the worst, humor posts. This one is the post that performed best in terms of impressions. 400 reactions, 160 comments, 7 shares, business impact, 0. Really 0. I made a humorous post that did really well. It made everyone laugh, but it didn't bring me any clients at all. So that's something to avoid. No point in doing that. Client feedback. Now this is actually really great because usually client feedback posts flop. It's a real flop. On the other hand, for the 800 people who saw that post, it had a huge impact because it really proves the value of your agency with the results you share. So I recommend sharing client feedback at least once a week or at the very least once a month. What works really well on LinkedIn, even if I don't like it that much, is sharing emotions. LinkedIn is really about feelings, emotions, and sensitivity. It works very well. It works very well. For me, well, this was the first time I made a post where I took a selfie. 54 reactions, 26 comments, and almost 3,000 impressions. I didn't see any direct results from that post, but when you talk about emotions, people can connect with you and they step outside the strictly business, return on investment mindset. Personally, I haven't seen a return on investment with those posts, but I know it works very well for many entrepreneurs and many agencies. I would prefer to do client feedback, but emotions sometimes allow you to combine the human side and reach, after all, to get a lot of impressions. Next, news updates. That's really great. Talking about news in your market allows you to position yourself directly as an expert and also shows that you stay up to date, meaning your agency is on top of the latest news and doesn't get left behind by events. For news updates, less often, I share predictions, things I understand and reasoning I have. And that often works very well. And here, as you can see, I got 2,000 impressions, 34 reactions, and 17 comments. So for me, that's a good post, a good carousel, especially considering there were only 3 pages. And there were quite a few interactions in the comments with real, relevant comments. And so this is really interesting. Now, what brings in the most customers and the most impressions, the most reach all combined, is lead magnets. This post is my best post ever. It has generated over 200,000 impressions, so more than my humorous post, which had 1,000 reactions and 3,200 comments. Immense. Immense. And knowing that, in there, about half of the comments are my replies. So there were 1,500 people who were interested in receiving my lead magnet. That literally means 1,500 interested leads. And from this post, I think we signed maybe 10 or 15 clients thanks to a single post. And for that post, I was inspired by an American who had made a similar post. That's the internet. Everyone gets inspired by everyone else. Everyone copies each other. Of course, you shouldn't get caught. You always need to rewrite the text, change the image. But in terms of structure, you can use the same framework. And the resource behind it really needs to be high quality. I used to share all my automations, just like I'm doing with you today. I'm going to send this video to my entire LinkedIn network because it's packed with value. Literally, I spent more than 84,000 euros on this video to test everything I'm sharing with you here. And in fact, the amount I mentioned at the beginning of the video is what I invested in resources, in time for myself, in my own salary, precisely so I could have the time to do all this. Now let's move on to SEO. Webflow, WordPress, lovable. When you're an SEO agency, you think, hey, the best thing to do is to make sure I'm well ranked myself on SEO keywords. That's the worst mistake you can make. If you're starting out and you tell yourself, okay, I'll find my clients by ranking well for the keyword SEO agency, you're heading straight for disaster. I'm going to explain something to you. The fantasy, really, the obsession of every SEO agency in France, every SEO consultant in France, is to be number 1 for the keyword SEO agency. The problem with that is that there are 3,000 agencies fighting over this keyword. Basically, every keyword has a difficulty level relative to the amount of money it can generate for you. So the more competitive a keyword is, the more it means there's money involved. For example, car insurance is highly competitive because there's a lot of money to be made. With the keyword SEO agency, it used to be like that. Except that since all the agencies have this incredible obsession with this keyword, everyone is fighting over it, everyone is spending thousands of euros on the budget, the keyword becomes impossible to reach, and so it's not profitable at all for you to be ranked for this keyword. So what I recommend is forget about the keyword SEO agency right away. At most, put it on your homepage, but that's it. For the rest, focus on other keywords. Your page and your site just need to be well ranked for your brand name. For example, this is the graph of my site. We had a huge spike one day thanks to a lead magnet, but in general, it grows slowly. And that's actually okay. It's okay because it's not your business focus at all. So what I actually recommend you do is when you're sending people from your YouTube videos or your LinkedIn posts, well, create good content. Make a newsletter page to collect news, emails. Create an SEO tools page that, on the other hand, will really attract qualified visitors to your site. Do case studies, that's the most important thing. Prove the effectiveness of SEO methods with concrete and measurable results from real clients. Every time you have a client, you need to do a case study. Then set up blog articles to clearly signal to Google the topics you cover and to demonstrate the editorial quality of your technology or your service. Of course, you don't have to be ranked for SEO agency, but still, write blog articles about what you know so you can show Google what you want to be ranked for. More importantly, your clients who are going to buy blog articles from you will visit your site, check out your blog posts, and analyze a bit what you're going to sell them. So, it's a good idea to have spent time on your blog and to provide them with quality content. Next, a page with all your testimonials, super important. And finally, a calendar page. Create your agency website with a Webflow template. This is really the process I recommend if you want to have a well-ranked agency website in the future. You're going to go with Webflow because, in my opinion, it's the best alternative among WordPress, Shopify, PrestaShop, and Wix. So, you'll choose a suitable template. Structure it with a good design. You'll duplicate it and clean up the template. You'll delete all the unnecessary pages, the gimmicky sections, and keep only what serves the purpose. Third point, you're going to rename and organize the key pages so you can create all the pages I showed you earlier. You'll replace all the content, change the titles, add text and images, no lorem ipsum. That's super important. You'll structure every page the same way, always with a problem, a solution, proof, and a call to action. The same logic applies throughout the entire site. Always include a call to action to book a call with you or a discovery audit. Next, you'll set up your CMS to create a blog, a case study CMS, and a tool CMS, and each item will have an SEO objective. For example, for the blog, you'll write 10 blog articles per month, and for each blog post, there will always be a target keyword objective. So for a blog, it will be 1 keyword per post. Same goes for case studies. You'll have plenty of case studies. The goal isn't necessarily to rank for the number of your clients, but rather to include the keyword for your client's industry. For example, a case study, e-commerce business in IT. And for tools, you can create pages about the tools, for example, HTML to text converter, image compressor, image to favicon converter. Number 7, you need to set up appointment booking. This is the most important. So Calendly or something similar. In general, I always recommend iClosed, even though it's a paid service. Call to action visible everywhere on every page. There must be calls to action. Honestly, put in as many as possible. It's better to have a little too many than not enough. And make sure there's zero friction when moving from one page to another, and especially when booking a call with you. That's the sole purpose of your site. It's to book appointments. Number 8, publish quickly. The goal is that as soon as your domain is connected and you've done the basic SEO, you publish your site. After that, you'll make improvements. Because in fact, to achieve good growth in terms of SEO, it's important to publish your site right away and let it get indexed so that time works in your favor. There you go, and here I've written this down. It's super important. If a client asks you why you're not ranking first for SEO agency, the answer is simple. That keyword is more of a fantasy than a real business driver. It's hyper-competitive, targeted by all SEO agencies with a low-quality intent and very weak ROI. The cost to rank for it has nothing to do with the actual value of the leads generated. It's much more relevant to showcase case studies and client results. Showcase client results on your website, communicate on LinkedIn. I guarantee you'll get a lot more clients much faster and without spending thousands or even tens of thousands of euros. Now let's move on to the last 2 ways to find clients. And now let's talk about Google My Business. If you're currently in France and want to target French clients, you might think, okay, great, I'll create a Google My Business listing in the city where I am so I can find clients. And that's a very good idea. It's a very good idea because it actually brings in a lot of visitors and quite a few qualified people. Honestly, I did it a little too late myself. Every month, I get clicks coming from my Google My Business listing directly to my website. So that's not something to overlook, especially since it's super quick to create your Google My Business listing, and the content you need to put on it is extremely simple. What you need to do, what I recommend, is that once you've completed your entire Google My Business listing, and we'll see this later in the video, is to start repurposing your content. So all the pages on your website can be turned into posts. So for example, the free SEO audit, you can make a post about that. Case studies, you can make a post about those too. Your newsletter page as well. The goal is really to take all your important website pages and all the blog articles you've written and then share them again on your Google My Business listing. This is the process for repurposing existing content. So you'll select the source content, a case study, a service page, or a blog article. The goal is one piece of content equals several reusable formats. You'll need to rewrite it in a short format. A Google My Business post is only 1,500 characters. Try to focus on a single clear idea with an SEO keyword plus a city explicitly mentioned. It's important that when you create your post, you use the keywords for your city so that it's as relevant and optimized as possible. You'll need to add an associated URL. So that's going to be the call to action, the button you'll add. Always add a button to redirect to your website. It's important not to redirect to external URLs. Redirect only to your website's URL. Publish on your Google My Business listing in a very simple way. And you'll need to keep track of the content you've used. Write it down somewhere so you don't publish the same post twice. Because if you publish some content in your newsletter one day and 6 months later you run out of ideas and think about the newsletter again, you shouldn't publish it because you've already made a post about it. Next, X. I'm completely new to X. And honestly, it's really something else. It's really the Wild West. So I just landed on X and I'm starting to interact a little with people. Now, I'm more in the software field, so it's important for me to have a strong presence. I've made different types of posts. Honestly, it's recycled LinkedIn content. So my style is a bit too much LinkedIn jargon, a bit corporate. I should actually be much more concise, much more direct on X. So for now, I'm not going to give you any advice. I'm not at all qualified to give you advice on X. However, I will share my process with you. It's always the same thing. Keyword research. And then we'll also try to find keywords through my following, meaning the people I follow who do SEO and could be relevant. There are plenty of other ways to find clients. I know that among you, there are people who find clients on ComeUp, on Malt. There are also people who run ads on Meta. There are people who also run ads on Google Ads. Unfortunately, I've never been able to try out those 3 other acquisition channels. I'm not qualified to talk about them, so I won't discuss them in this video. And if tomorrow you want to create content again, go to my profile, check out my lead magnet, browse LinkedIn, and discover other lead magnets. In any case, you have my research process. So literally on LinkedIn, I check out the profiles of people who often share SEO content. I also look at the top SEO posts of the week. And as soon as you follow several dozen SEO consultants and agency founders, you'll quickly start seeing the best posts of the day in your feed. You'll need to save them. And once you've saved them once a week, you can add them to your database and then create content based on them. To create content, at first, I really recommend studying how the posts were made so you can rework them. Honestly, it's just imitation, the kind of content I make on all social networks. I tried for a while to create content in a creative, somewhat artistic way. It doesn't work. For me, what works is really understanding the mechanics behind a piece of content, turning it into a theory, turning it into a mechanism, making it a process, and then making it my own and producing it in bulk, creating a lot so I have data to move forward. That's how I operate. Now that you have the platforms to use and the content to leverage them and attract people directly to calls, we need to talk about something. Maybe before you get started, you'll want to train yourself in marketing, in agency marketing. And I needed to give you a little paragraph, training in agency marketing, how to make sure you come across as an amateur. When you get started and begin training in marketing, you often fall into a deadly trap, focusing on psychological hacks and shady sales scripts that, in the end, make you look like a joke to your real clients. I've been there myself. In my early days, I listened to coaches and trainers from the French market who advised asking these kinds of questions during sales calls. What personal pain is the lack of SEO traffic causing you? How would you feel if you finally reached your SEO goal? What would change in your life if your business got 20,000 more visitors or in revenue? These pain-pleasure techniques work to close beginners, but we sell to business owners who handle tens of millions of euros a year, sometimes per month. If you ask a CEO that, he'll just laugh in your face. He's not looking for a therapist. He's looking for a competent service provider. In business, there are 2 ways to sell. Either you sell using emotions, with pain, or you sell in a factual way with results. There are people who are very good at using emotions. That's not my case. Personally, I prefer to get on a sales call and say, look, you have 100 visitors per month on your site. My last 10 clients have 10,000. I have a method that works. Here are 40 client testimonials. Do you want to work with me? Yes or no? And often it's not more complicated than that. Sales calls, the whole French market of closing, coaches, agencies, coaches of coaches, they've made it into a cult with endless sales scripts, etc. No, Real marketing, the core of business, is much more pragmatic. Copy the content formats that already work. Don't reinvent the wheel. Go to the platform that offers the best client reach to effort ratio, parentheses, LinkedIn. Show bigger results than your competitors and more prestigious references. The most exotic thing you should allow yourself is to have a unique mechanism. Everything else is just entertainment. It's just entertainment. What is a unique mechanism? It's a way to achieve your goal in a unique way. For example, the unique mechanism I had at my agency was that I deliberately said I would write hundreds of blog articles on my clients' websites. So yes, there were a lot of clients who got scared, who walked away and didn't want to sign, but there were also many clients who were willing to play along, who thought, this is fantastic. And thanks to those hundreds of published articles, maybe about 10 of them turned out to be winning articles that brought them tens of thousands of visitors over the past few months. You can have a unique mechanism, but everything else is just entertainment. All the training about marketing, content creation, etc. It's just entertainment. I guarantee you that if tomorrow you get better results than all your competitors and you make a LinkedIn post about it, you'll get calls from interested people. Because there's such a demand for SEO that even though there are a lot of people creating content, there are still client requests. And if clients don't want to go with one of your competitors, they might choose you because there's a personal connection. The only thing that really matters is delivering for your clients. If you deliver, you'll get results, and results bring in more clients. Why is niching down right from the start a strategic mistake? That's the second point, and then we can move on. There's a persistent misconception that circulates when you launch your agency, that you absolutely have to niche down right away. People tell you to become the SEO webflow expert or the SEO specialist for lawyers. To me, that's shooting yourself in the foot. When you're starting out, your absolute priority is cash flow and experience. Cash flow? Bringing in cash, gaining experience, getting clients, and at the beginning, well, sometimes you'll hit some walls with clients. Sometimes there will be clients you just won't manage to rank well. And that's okay, it's okay. There is no agency that has 5 stars and 1,000 stars on Trustpilot. That doesn't exist. SEO is a universal skill. Google's fundamentals don't change just because a site is built on WordPress, Shopify, or Framer. That doesn't change. If tomorrow you have an e-commerce client and you need to support a client who has a SaaS, okay, maybe there are some hacks and best practices that are more suited to agencies that handle software than those that only do e-commerce. But if you can get an e-commerce site to rank, you'll be able to get a software site to rank as well. It's still SEO in the end. The algorithm is the same. By locking yourself into a single technology or a single industry, you automatically cut yourself off from 90% of the market. You turn away potential clients when you actually need to build your portfolio. That's really what it comes down to. When you write on your LinkedIn profile, I help lawyers with SEO, all the other profiles that visit your page, you're basically telling them, go away. You're telling them, don't give me your money. But if you say on your profile, I help businesses get more clients with the unique mechanism. Now that's different. Taking on clients, no matter the industry, it's that variety that will build your expertise and allow you to understand the overall mechanisms of SEO. Don't close any doors before you've reached your break-even point, except for WordPress. WordPress, we'll talk about that later. But if you don't want to take on WordPress clients, I get it. The result is your only real positioning. Once again, the result is your only real positioning. Many agencies think they need to sell a specialty to be credible. The truth is, the end client doesn't really care whether you're an exclusive expert in their industry or their CMS. What they want is for their phone to ring and their sales to go up. I've had clients who were in certain niches. They were the first clients I had in that niche, and it went very well, even though I had never worked in that industry before. So yes, there are industries that are more sensitive than others, that have certain constraints where you can't just say anything, but it's still SEO. If you are able to clearly explain your method, how you take a site from being invisible to ranking first on Google, you are selling an unassailable logic that works for everyone. Money has no industry. If you show a traffic curve that skyrockets for a health e-commerce site, a prospect in jewelry dropshipping will still sign up. Why? Because performance is a universal language. US content, delivering measurable results, and making video testimonials. The rest is just a distraction. In concrete terms, this should be your computer wallpaper for the next 3 months if you want to launch your SEO agency. American content for your LinkedIn acquisition, delivering measurable results to your clients, and making video testimonials with your clients to put on your landing page. That's all there is to do. And that's perfect because now we're going to see, as soon as we start creating content, how we'll capture everyone and how we'll be able to sell them our service. All my platforms redirect to a single channel, book your demo, and get a GEO audit. Right now, it's on C rank because that's what I'm doing on my social networks today. But when I used to send visitors to my agency, I would send everyone directly to my agency. I would send everyone to a page like this, with a calendar to book a call with me. What you need to know is that I use Webflow. And on Webflow, I have several pages. Including a newsletter page where, in fact, I have a lot of subscribers. I have about 6,000 subscribers to this newsletter. I regularly send emails to this newsletter where I offer them a call. Sometimes it works a bit less. It's important to keep in mind. Okay, you're going to send visitors to this page, not just to the iClose link. Because that will also help your SEO. Also think about your search engine ranking. Build your system so that it feeds all your channels. By sending every possible visitor, even if they're not qualified, to this page, it will help it rank higher on Google. So if you want to be ranked, however, for Audit GEO, you can absolutely optimize that page and drive traffic to it so that it ranks well on Google. Also, being well ranked on that page will boost your other pages as well because people will also visit those other pages. So concretely, what you need to do is implement your calendar on your website page. As we mentioned earlier, I don't recommend Calendly, I recommend iClose. Why do I recommend iClose? Because no matter if someone just enters their phone number, first name, last name, and books a call or not, it automatically saves the information in iClose's CRM. So the iClose CRM is directly connected to Google Calendar. What's very important is that once people book a call with you, you need to redirect them to another page on your site to complete 3 actions. First, confirm your attendance for the call. Here, you need to include a message to confirm their participation on Google Meet and let them know they should be on a computer with a good internet connection for 30 minutes. Note here the amount of time to set aside for the call. This is extremely important. Otherwise, you'll end up with people who are in their cars driving and not listening to you at all, even if they might have intended to buy your service. But prepare it this way so they're informed, and if they don't show up seriously, you can hang up the call knowing you've done everything you could. Next, number 2, watch this video about SEO, your website, your ranking. Here, it's very important to make a short video to show them what you're going to talk about, to introduce yourself a bit, present your method, and above all, let them know what you'll be providing during the call. This helps a lot to save time if you need to get access or if you need them to prepare a list of information. If, for example, you are an agency that only creates websites, in this case, you might need to ask them to fill out a small form or provide other information that you may not have collected during the booking call. What I included here, concretely, was a demo of our services and the 5 biggest mistakes I noticed on websites. And I would explain, let's say, really my approach. That way, I didn't always have to present the same thing again during the call. Finally, number 3, review a case study. This is extremely important to start planting the seed in your prospect's mind about the results from case studies. Here, the title for number 3 doesn't appear because there was an animation over it during the screenshot. By doing this, you'll make sure that the people who join the call have already confirmed their attendance, have a good internet connection, are on a computer, know your positioning, and are aware of the results you've already achieved for clients. For me, it's truly incredible how much this improves the conversion rate, but it doesn't stop there. A lot will happen between the booking and the call. First, 24 hours before, we'll send this email. It's a reminder email saying, we have a call tomorrow. I just like to show you this case study. We include the transformation, the link to the YouTube video, and mention that we'll discuss it again tomorrow with the date and the call link. See you tomorrow. Signed. 2 hours before the call, we'll send another email saying, our call is in 2 hours. In the meantime, here is our case study. See you soon. 3 minutes before the call, we automatically send a message. This is very easy to set up on iClose. Hello, we'll meet in 2 minutes on Google Meet for your SEO audit. Call link. See you soon. With this, you'll reduce your no-shows, that is, people who book a call and then don't show up, by 60%. Easy. Here, the person receives an email 24 hours before, an email 2 hours before, and a text message 3 minutes before. If they still don't show up, you literally can't even follow up with them. Because generally, when people get a text message 3 minutes before, they either show up or they tell you, I'm not available. Now let's move on to qualification, the step right after we've sent our little text message when we're about to have our prospect on the phone. The only advice I have for you here, the most general advice, is stay natural. You're talking to a human being. Even if it's a business owner, they just want to know more about what you're going to offer them. So the goal will be to identify the target keyword and define the strategy they want. So we're going to ask them what their keyword is. We'll analyze the Google results for that keyword, show them the victory criteria, and choose their CMS if they don't already have a website. We'll recommend one to them to make the call, I use the same setup that I have. So it's very important to have a setup, a stable desk where your phone won't move. You can put your phone on a small tripod behind your desk directly on the floor so it really won't move at all. You can actually connect your phone to your Mac with a cable, so you don't even need Bluetooth. It's very important to have good sound quality. It's not a big deal if your video quality isn't perfect. The most important thing is really the sound, that they can hear you well and that you can share your screen. If possible, you'll need to ask for access to the Google Search Console. Google Analytics, honestly, is more optional if the person is really quick, or you can ask for it earlier in the video if you really need it for your process. The call is, of course, recorded with TLDV. So this allows you to record the very first call. I've literally recorded hundreds and hundreds of calls. This will allow you later to have the transcript of the video and to rewatch the call once a month, to rewatch all your calls or at least the most important ones when you haven't closed the deal. It will help you improve your sales skills. And actually, to help you improve your sales skills, I've already prepared something that will keep you from beating around the bush during calls, the script. So this is a super short script, but it's what allowed me to close one out of every 4 people in my agency. I'm going to read it to you. You greet the person. Hello? The purpose of this call is to understand your SEO situation, quickly identify the main levers on your site, and give you concrete suggestions for free during this call. During this call, I have nothing to sell you. The goal is for us to spend 30 minutes together to talk about your SEO strategy. And if you're interested in having me make you a tailored offer, we'll schedule a second 30-minute call in the next few days. Does that work for you? At this point, he'll say, yes, that works very well for me. Then you say, okay, great, very good. Well, my name is Thibaut. I'm an SEO expert at SEO agency XYZ. Here is the agency's introduction in 4 sentences. And now you will present your number of clients, your years of experience, your expertise, and your unique selling point. Next, you will ask her to introduce herself and her company. It's quite important for you to introduce yourself first because I've noticed that if you ask the other person to go first, they'll end up introducing themselves for 15 minutes and then immediately jump into their questions. SEO. Introduce yourself briefly to avoid a long presentation. Use just 3 or 4 sentences and then ask the other person to introduce themselves. And at that point, you can really get into the call and start asking the questions you have for them. In general, I ask fewer than 5 questions. What are your main acquisition channels today? It's very important to know how the company operates and how they find their clients. It could be that they had a bad website redesign, lost all their traffic, and now, in fact, they can't find any clients anymore. And in that case, it's going to be really urgent for them, and we can offer them a big package. Secondly, what do they sell? Who are they targeting? And what are their goals? SEO, do they have big goals or small goals? Next, this is an extremely powerful question. Do they have a deadline? Do they have a cutoff date to implement SEO? If the deadline is coming up soon, we can present them with an offer for an SEO sprint, for example, to move much faster for them. Finally, the competition. Are there any competitors who are already well positioned and whom they envy a little? That way, we can really show the gap between their situation, their keywords, and their competitors' situation, who are often well ranked for those keywords. And that gap, that's actually going to be your service. Once they've answered all these questions, you'll be able to transition to the audit. So you'll thank them for providing this information. And given the time we have, you'll directly suggest moving on to a quick audit to illustrate all this in a concrete way. So here you'll open their website and you can directly open different tabs on their site and tell them what errors are present on their site. For that, I've prepared a gift for you. I've released my extension. It's free, a 100% free Sorank extension. You'll be able to go to any page of your future clients, click on the extension and instantly get a report. And with one click, export the PDF of the page audit. Now this will be an audit per page, but concretely, you'll get a score for each page and you'll have a direct list of things to implement, which you can present directly to your client. Now this won't be anything professional at all. It'll be very, very simple. But for you, it can allow you to immediately show, look, with the SEO extension, I can instantly see there are issues on your site because your sentences are too long. Your SEO score is too low because there aren't enough keywords. Your site takes too long to load because there are large images, and all of this can also work in your favor. If you still have time, you can present a few educational slides. Often when I introduce myself, I present educational slides because they often have questions. How does SEO work? So here are the slides. You can copy all of them. Start by making 5, 6, or 7 slides. For all the results I've had, I go through them really quickly like this and they think, wow, I've had lots of case studies, lots of results, and these are really big clients we've worked with. Then I talk specifically about their issues, understanding search engine optimization, understanding SEO and AI. I explain case studies to them in detail. Usually with these educational slides, I stop around the 15th slide, because after that we'll move on to conversion, to presenting offers. And to present an offer, it's important that you do the audit, and that will come in a second phase. So, in the educational slides, what you can put in addition to your case studies will be infographics to educate your client. Because an educated customer is a customer who is rational in their decision making. And we do SEO, we see business leaders, so it needs to be based on concrete things. For example, you can explain why it's important to be in the top 3, because after that, the click-through rate drops dramatically. You can also explain case studies done by Ahrefs. They regularly release a lot of really relevant infographics. And you can also talk about your processes, your resources, how you work, who is part of your team, and what sets you apart from other agencies. All of these are elements you can share in your educational slides. Once you've finished your call and scheduled the second call, it's important to schedule that second call. During the first call, you'll need to create a profile for your prospect with the TLDV link. And for that, you'll need to set up a CRM for yourself. We'll see later how to create a CRM. So there you go, that was the first gift, my extension. 3 minutes after the call, you'll be able to send 2 videos that will request access to Google Search Console and Google Analytics. This is so you can really do a personalized and detailed audit. If you don't feel like recording this type of video yourself, you can use my videos. Because in the software I'm developing for SEO agencies, which I'll introduce to you later, in this video, I make videos that you can use directly. You can use my image for your agency directly. I don't mention SoRank, I don't mention VRank, I don't mention any agency. They're just neutral professional tutorials that you can send to your clients. For example, to ask them for access to their Google Analytics and Google Search Console. So, these are videos I originally made for my own clients back in the day and that I re-recorded in 2026, so that you in turn can launch your own agency. And you don't need to spend 2 months making process videos. We've just finished the acquisition part. Now, we're going to move on to the offer part. How do we create our offer? First, the second call, the sales call, and we're starting now. The first step in building your offer is to understand the client's website situation. For that, we'll start with an SEO and GEO audit. So get ready. So the objective and method of an audit. The audit is used to understand why the site lacks visibility and to confirm the work that needs to be done. It takes place in 2 main steps. First step, list the site's technical issues. This step involves identifying all the structural errors that currently prevent search engines from properly reading or indexing the site. The goal is to provide a precise list of fixes to apply so that the site is technically clean and ready to move forward. Once all these technical issues have been resolved and the site is now fast and meets Google's standards, we analyze the competition and define the gap with the best positioned competitors to identify the exact shortfall to make up, whether in terms of covered keywords or authority. So authority refers to backlinks. This makes it possible to concretely define the list of content to create and the optimizations to implement in the offer to fill this gap and achieve the targeted results. We repeat, there are 3 pillars for SEO. Having a well-built site, mobile-friendly and fast. Having good content. And having links coming from other websites on the internet, having backlinks. The number 1 problem is going to be finding the issues with the site. And secondly, we'll take the other 2 points, analyzing the competition to understand what separates us from the top positions. So what is the old method for conducting an audit? Here, I've only shown you 1 tool for conducting audits, but in reality there are plenty of others and you'll see that later when we work with our clients. You'll be able to use software like SEMrush or PickEye to check presence in AIs and content gaps. In fact, you'll have access to a whole range of tools. Lots of tools, each one very, very good. So it's literally going to take you about 2 hours per audit if you do it professionally to really get the list of things that need to be implemented. And then once you've completed the entire audit, you'll need to tailor it to your offer. Because once the audit is done, you need to be able to put a price on it in order to deliver it. And that's where it all begins. The nightmare for SEO agencies starts here. That is, figuring out what you're going to sell now, what you'll sell later, what needs to be prioritized, and so on. So what is the new method I'm proposing to you today once you have an interested client? You go to this platform, fill out a form with about 10 fields, and then you launch the audit. And in 3 minutes, the audit will be done. We'll conduct the SEO audit, GEO audit, and content gap analysis, all in white label. This means that on the cover of the audit, you can put your website's name, your agency's name, and your brand colors. On it will indicate the market's progress, the technical pillar audit, the content pillar audit, and the trust pillar audit. In short, you'll have everything, and at the end, you'll get strategic comments along with the adaptation of your offer. We'll talk more about that later. Even without mentioning an offer, you'll be able to do a complete audit of the website's situation and the issues to fix all in one click. This does exist. For example, SEO Optimizer allows this. But the problem is, it doesn't allow you to also analyze presence in AIs. It doesn't allow for an ultra-optimized presentation like you can do with GenSpark. It doesn't let you pull in all the information from your CRM. Sorank meets that need, as well as dozens of others that we'll see later in this video. But that's not all. On top of that, there's the keyword selection that comes next, as we mentioned. There's the competitive gap. So here, we're already going to recommend keywords for you to target. For example, if you have a client in cosmetic surgery who offers Botox injections but has never created a service page for the keyword Botox, we're going to show them this curve. We're going to show them, look, here you're on the keyword cosmetic surgery, which has been declining since 2004. On the other hand, Botox has been constantly booming since 2004. And here, there's an opportunity, business. So, in fact, the software will be able to analyze all the aspects of the site that other tools did, but in a centralized way presented as a PDF, because most of the tools above, which are great, don't provide a PDF. And finally, adapting to your offer. When you go to this rank, you'll be able to create your own offers with your pricing. If you don't have any inspiration, I'll give you mine, my offers that work really well and sell very well. So here, you'll have your offers that you can set up. There you go. Content creation, 5 blog articles per month. How much are you going to sell yours for? 5 blog articles per month, maybe 500 euros. Okay, great. You're going to sell 5 blog articles per month for 500 euros, which will only cost you a few cents to generate with this rank. So once you've defined your process, as soon as you decide to do this audit, at the end you'll say, okay, at the end of this audit, I'm going to offer them this offer, and this offer. And if the client accepts automatically all the tasks from the audit that need to be fixed, and my entire offer will be added to my to-do list automatically. Do you realize that? You send a business proposal to your client, you send slides that were generated automatically, you click a button once you've received payment from your client, and you can get to work. This is unheard of. Once we've done the audit, we might say, whoa, we've landed on a WordPress site, this is going to be a pain. Not all clients are the same. In fact, you can be an SEO agency making 5 million euros in annual revenue and still lose money, because actually the agency game is also about targeting the right clients. If, for example, a client has a website, wants SEO, and their site is on WordPress, what I used to do in my agency was simply not work on WordPress sites. All the clients who had WordPress sites fell into 2 categories. Either they had a web agency or they didn't have a web agency. If they had a web agency, we would do the audit and send them a CSV file. So we would send them an Excel document with all the content to be implemented. We would send them all the blog articles with a row for each article. We would also send them an audit, the audit mentioned above, with the elements that needed to be fixed. We would really send all that to the web agency that managed our client's site. And we didn't do anything at all because honestly, WordPress is a hassle. It's just an absolute nightmare. Yes, the SEO gurus will say it's the most widely used CMS powering half the web, etc. Okay, but here the goal is for us to make money. So we need to make a profit. So we need to target clients who won't take 3 times longer than we planned. So if they have a web agency, that's great. Take them, sign those clients, even if they're on WordPress, and send them the audit. And the CSV? And you tell them, listen, you're on WordPress, we do work with clients on WordPress, but we don't handle the integration. That's the most important thing. Integration is where we lose a huge amount of time. And if they don't have an agency, offer them a migration to, for example, Shopify or Webflow. Let me remind you, let's define a business. A for-profit business is an economic entity whose main goal is to generate profits. That is, revenues greater than expenses, to ensure its sustainability in the economy. To invest and pay its owners or shareholders, that's clear. If the company has a website that's coded or otherwise, whether they have an agency or not, don't bother trying to integrate the content yourself. Honestly, I really advise you not to try to integrate content on a coded website because you're not a developer. And really, it's a huge mistake to waste time trying to change that. It won't add any value for your client. You won't be doing them any favors at all. It's better if you just send it directly. Send the audit and the actions to be implemented to their development team. The only situation where you can insert the content yourself is if you have Shopify or Webflow clients who don't have an agency. In that case, you can do the audit, the optimization, and the implementation directly. But really, if your clients have agencies, you can delegate the implementation directly. And I'll take this opportunity to talk a little about client lifetime value. Just before we move on to the offers, it's important that I explain how we can make the most money from a client by bringing them the most value. So once a client is closed, right after that, as we'll see, we'll do a first month of service, then we'll have a call. It's important to have a call every month. Then, at the end of the first service, we'll offer them a subscription, for example. At the end of the subscription, we'll make them another offer, maybe an upsell, so selling them a press article, for example, with an additional budget of over 1,500 euros. The point is for you to understand that every month you can offer something new to your client and you should offer it. It's important to do so. Because just because they turn down an extra offer doesn't mean they're going to unsubscribe from your main offer. And that I learned too late. The clients we work with, they have a lot of money, and it's in their best interest to spend that money the right way because we do good work to get them results. As soon as the client refuses an offer or stops working with you, you'll need to get them back on a call and do what we call an offboarding. Offboarding is when a client is leaving and we give them the opportunity to provide us with value. Let me explain. When a client leaves, it doesn't mean they're unhappy, it just means they want to stop working with you. Maybe they're actually very satisfied with the service you've provided so far. So what you'll need to set up is this offboarding process. That means offering something in exchange for reviews on different platforms. How does it work? For every public review you leave, we add a backlink to your site on one of our partner sites. Here are the rules. 1 review equals 1 backlink. Your review must be detailed and include a screenshot image of your dashboard. Receiving the backlinks. As soon as you post the link to your review with an image, we set up the backlink within 48 hours. So, as soon as they post their review on Netflix, Google My Business, Trustpilot, Product Hunt, or elsewhere, we'll offer them a backlink. For us, it doesn't cost anything because we can easily find backlinks to place on sites for free. And for them, it brings a lot of value because it will improve their SEO. It's a win-win situation. Each person helps the other for free. And if they're really happy, don't hesitate to do it. A case study, so an interview of a few minutes. Plus, if you've been following this video closely, all the calls are recorded, so it shouldn't be a problem. To ask them for their permission to republish part of the call on your YouTube channel so you can feature this video on your landing page. There you have the whole process on how to ask for a testimonial. I'll let you check it out if you're interested. Now, we can move on to creating offers. So these offers, I've looked at them from every angle. The most important thing for an agency when it comes to its offers is to have a single unified process. On your screen, you can see that I have 2 presentations of my best sellers. And I wrote bestseller with an S, even though it's actually just one offer. Let's say it's really a single process in 2 different forms. There's the one-shot version, an SEO sprint, just to land a big ticket once. And there's the subscription option. It's just a one-off offer spread over several months for customers who want to spend my money every month. Naturally, the one-shot offer is more profitable because you collect all the money at once. For clients who do not yet have a website, we can add a Webflow or Shopify website creation service at 950 euros less. So I'll now give you a detailed breakdown of the offers I was selling to my clients. First, we have a selection of keywords over 12 months, which is done automatically in the software. Next, we optimize the content of the pages. So here, it's a certain number of pages that we'll optimize as part of the service. Here, we'll optimize 10 pages to achieve better SEO. That means we'll compress the images, add content to the pages, and why not set up some backlinks as well. Next, we'll add blog articles to the website. So here we were doing about 100 of them because once again with AI, everything can be automated at a very high quality. Then we'll have a budget for purchasing backlinks, which is included in all the offers. Here we had 250 euros, so we bought 2 links at 120, 125 euros each for our clients. We installed the lms.txt file, indexed the site on Bing, and carried out a complete optimization of the listing. Google My Business, we published a post on Reddit, a post on LinkedIn, a post on Quora, and a post on Medium. That was for SEO and AIs. Next, we have WhatsApp support available all week and a 1-hour consultation at the end of the service. So these offers, the bestseller and the growth, were popular because people loved getting a big boost of optimization for their site and blog article writing. And I had exactly the same thing available as a subscription. And what was really funny is that most people who went for a one-shot would then switch to an SEO subscription. So here we have a monthly commitment, of course, for each offer. A client who pays us 800 euros per month has to commit for 12 months. The goal is that no matter where the client signs for a subscription, they should commit to at least 6,000 to 10,000 euros, And for a one-shot, well, there we can accept 3,000 euros excluding tax, of course. Here, I'm only talking about amounts excluding tax, because if you have clients in France, VAT will apply. If you are also based in France, here, we literally have the same lines as our previous offer, the SEO Sprint, except that here, there will be a monthly commitment over several months. Obviously, the higher the subscription, the shorter the client's commitment period will be. What I recommend is that you copy most of the points. But as you can see, I haven't reinvented the wheel every time. So the three things, there's the complete technical optimization of the site with page optimization and the creation of new content. And then we have a budget for backlinks. Learn to add slightly more exotic things like posting on Reddit, LinkedIn, Quora, and Medium, publishing posts on the Google My Business profile and optimizing it, and installing the LLMs.txt file. These are things, let's say, that are a bit new and that clients appreciate, but the core of our offer still remains the 3 pillars of SEO. Next, when it comes to custom offers, that's where the trap is. That's the big trap for SEO agencies. Because actually, it's easy to increase your agency's revenue to boost your agency's turnover with little custom points. But honestly, I don't recommend it. I prefer not to sell any custom services and never adapt my offers to the client rather than only doing custom work. Because actually there are craftsmen on every street corner. And if you start doing custom work, you'll become a craftsman yourself. And a craftsman in SEO can't sell services at 10,000 euros per month per client because there won't be any value. For example, managing emails, setting up emails. We did it once at the agency, and honestly, it's always a hassle. It's always a hassle. There are always emails that stop working, mailboxes that go down, and there's no value in that. A client isn't going to pay 2,000 euros just to set up email addresses. So what's important to ask yourself is, okay, what is the value and what profit am I going to get from this? That's why you need to overprice these custom offers. So for that, I have 10 rules to really avoid falling into the trap of just taking money from a client and then ending up frustrated, delivering for a client and not being profitable. Only offer an upsell if it serves the SEO objective, otherwise decline. Have a standard pricing grid ready before the sale. Overprice upsells so that upgrading offers remains attractive. Stay within your SEO scope, geo, content, offsite tracking, no 360-degree services. We actually had a running joke at the agency, 360-degree agencies just go in circles. Because actually, when you do a 360 on yourself, well, I'm not going to do it, but when you spin around in place, you don't actually move forward. By definition, you just stay in the same spot. So, in reality, those 360 agencies that say, we do your marketing at 360 degrees, often just go around in circles and can't move forward in any one direction. Prioritize upsells that strengthen the compound effect and leave a lasting impact. Literally, fixing a problem on a specific page because there's a bug in the code isn't really going to change much on the site. On the other hand, fixing all the cannibalization across every page, now that's where there's a real major benefit. Each upsell must have a clear deliverable, a deadline, an owner, and a completion criterion. Never sell custom solutions if the basic service isn't on track. That's extremely important. In fact, you should never sell custom solutions to clients who haven't opted for that. And in my onboarding process, which I'll show you later, these offers are only available if the clients have already paid for this offer. So this is really an extra, it's truly a bonus. Standardize into packages, limit custom work, protect your schedule, charge extra for urgent requests if they disrupt your planning, and require access before starting. Honestly, if tomorrow your client breaks something on their site, it's nice of you to fix it for free, but at some point you have other clients to serve as well, you have other clients to take care of, so it has to be paid for. Lastly, document the P-sell to enrich your SOPs and avoid having to do the same thing twice. If one day you deliver a new line of this table that you've never delivered before, record yourself, capture your screen, and explain what you're doing. That way, next time, you won't be the one doing it, and you'll finally get out of the operational side and be able to put someone else in your place. Maybe it won't happen again next week, but maybe in 3 months, you'll have exactly the same situation with a client, and I guarantee you'll be glad you took the time. An extra half hour to record the video and upload it to your channel, privately on YouTube, rather than just doing it once and having to do it all over again a second time. So you can even go and take calls with different agencies, and you'll see that there are always one-shot deals or subscriptions, and subscriptions, they're always there. Some are under 1,000 euros and it goes up to just under 5,000 euros per month. Selling SEO subscriptions for more than 5,000 euros a month? Personally, I've never seen it, except for very, very large accounts. But often in those cases, it's really about highly customized solutions. Now, let's talk about conversion. Once we've defined our offer, filtered our client, figured out how things are going to go, maybe decided what will sell them later, and done the SEO audit, now we can get them on a call and finally present our offer. Before that, as usual, since we've rescheduled the call on iClosed, the person receives an email 2 hours before and a new SMS 3 minutes before. Here, I recommend sending a different email but using the same SMS as the first time. Before we move on and I reveal my sales script, give this video a like. I'm really putting my heart and soul into filming and preparing this so that it becomes the best free resource on the internet in the French market for launching an SEO agency, period. And to be successful and able to make a comfortable living from it. So please give it a like. My last record was just under 300 likes. So don't hesitate, I'm looking forward to beating that record. And so we can get this video well ranked on YouTube to help as many people as possible. Now let's move straight on to the conversion section. And watch out, this section is going to be intense. Here we've already analyzed the client's entire website. We know what's interesting for the client. We know who their competitors are. We know what their target keyword is. And now we have all the tools we need to offer them what we have to sell. In this call, we're really going to keep things very simple. At the start of the call, we'll clearly restate the objective. The goal is to present the SEO strategy we've prepared for them since our first meeting, explain how we can actually implement it, and see whether we'll work together by the end of the call or not. To recap the context, during the last call, we identified the SEO potential that could be leveraged without a major overhaul, the competitors who are better positioned, and the levers that can be quickly activated. Recommendations you had already made regarding the errors you noticed on the client's website. Next, you will dig deeper. Go into their case in more detail. And here you will specifically talk about the things you identified and created during your audit. Of course, as always, use the setup I showed you. Once you have set the context again and reiterated what you already discussed during the first call, you will suggest presenting this. He will say, yes, I'd like to see that. And that's when you'll begin. As always, we go back to the 3 pillars of SEO. You will tell him, look, we're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're going to do what works for you and what works for all your competitors. Go over the 3 points again. Optimize the foundations of SEO. Create and optimize content. Strengthen authority. And then you can also add the GEO arguments. You'll also be able to improve ranking in AIs. And that you can just mention verbally and also write it down if you want. And here as well, it's very relevant to set up slides that are, let's say, more conversion oriented. So I did it here where I was presenting our solution. So I was showing here, this is your site. We will get you referenced in AIs and on Google. You'll be able to improve your performance here, improve content quality, and boost your domain authority. We'll improve your online reviews and get you featured in the media, and we'll create content for you on external platforms. And then after that, I talked about the team, how the team is structured, and then about the offers. And these are really the slides I was presenting. And how we get started, the onboarding process, and the additional offers as well. This is really what I presented during the first call sometimes, and sometimes during the second one. But ideally, it's best to present this during the second call, so that the first call is really just a discovery call. Give people 30 minutes. They're always surprised that you have nothing to sell them, and it shows that you do not actually need their money. If during the first 30-minute call, you give them as much value as possible, then follow up for 30 minutes, check in on them, and use informal language if they prefer. Personally, I use informal language with all my clients. It goes really well. So when they come back for the call, they're happy. They see that you worked for them for free. Then, once you've presented your offer or your quote, they're going to ask you questions. You keep asking questions until they say, I have no more questions. It's a yes. If they don't say yes, tell them, listen, I spent 30 minutes during the first call with you to understand what you needed. I worked 2 hours of my time. Now, we've just finished the last 30-minute call. Between us, I'd just like us to be transparent and honest so that no one wastes their time. What is the thing that bothers you most about my quote today? And at that point, they'll explain it to you. This. It's really important at the end if you feel that the person is hesitant about the sale, and you'll get a sense of that over time, to open up and say, listen, I'm not a great salesperson. I don't want to be a salesperson. I don't want to act like a salesperson. Just tell me if you're interested in the quote or not. I have other calls waiting for me. If you want us to move forward together, let me know. And if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. And sometimes most clients don't even need you to go into that topic. They'll just say, listen, everything is good for me. I just need to talk it over with my partner so we can see when we'll release the payment. And here, what's very important to say is, okay, your partner is also a decision maker. Does he need any information to make his decision? And often they'll say, oh yes, I'd like to have the replay of the call. I'd like to have the slides you showed me. I'd like to have the quote you prepared. And you'll send all of that to them by email. You can't imagine how many people have taken a call with me, then a second call. I did the audit for them, sent them the quote, and they didn't say yes, they said no. And in the end, 3 months later, 6 months later, they come back to me and say, oh yes, I came across your LinkedIn content again. Last time, I didn't want to move forward with you, but now I'm ready. Except now I say, well, the rates aren't the same anymore. They've gone up since then. And the person says, all right, let's go with the new rates, and moves forward. So don't get upset if the person says no to you. The goal is just to understand why actually they don't want to. Maybe it's just not the right time, and the French market is tiny. So actually one client will inevitably know another client that you're going to get. And then word of mouth spreads very quickly. Let me tell you something. Maybe you won't believe me. 100% of our clients have someone in common. It could be a friend of a friend. It could be a service provider, but everyone knows each other. It's scary. The arguments. You can emphasize the number of visitors, brand awareness, sales, the business's valuation as well, the increase in revenue and the increase in clicks. It's super important that you don't sell tasks one by one. You're selling a result. If you just sell blog articles one by one, of course, selling a blog article for 100 euros, it stings a bit and it's a little complicated to sell nowadays. On the other hand, if you offer a package to achieve a result, then you can sell for much more because you're selling a result, you're communicating about a result, about value. So actually, you're going to charge for the impact you deliver, not just the hours spent. Honestly, the agencies that are struggling the most around me are the ones that sell by the hour. Selling by the hour is tough, you know. Honestly, it's really, really complicated. Now, let's imagine we've closed the client. How do we collect payment? First, you'll need to issue an invoice. All clients will want a quote or an invoice, that's normal. They want to have a little piece of paper to take with them. If you don't make a quote, that's fine. At first, I used to make them because I wasn't very credible in the eyes of my prospects, but I stopped doing it. I told them, look, you have my slides. In the slides, you have my offers. There's nothing more, nothing less than what I would put in a quote. So, the quote won't be of any use to you. And it works very well. However, the invoice is mandatory. It's a required document. So for the invoice, you have two options. Either you use Abby, so Abby or plenty of other software. It's a free software that some of my friends use to manage their invoicing. Or if you can, and if your client agrees to use Stripe, that's the holy grail. Stripe is great because, in fact, if you set up a subscription, if a client buys a subscription from you, well, you don't need to send them invoices every month. They're charged automatically and receive the invoice by email. And that's awesome. If ever, like most people do, you can go through a bank transfer, either via Revolut or directly through your physical bank account in France, for example, AXA or Crédit Agricole or whichever you use. Personally, I always chose the Revolut plus Stripe solution because actually bank transfers to Revolut have zero fees. They're instant. It's really great. Whereas with your bank, depending on the agreement you have with your advisor, you might have fees, limits, or transfers that aren't always instant. Then once the invoice has been created and sent to the client, I always recommend sending it by email. So yes, emails are old. There are plenty of startups that have tried to dethrone emails. It turns out that emails are actually great. Honestly, emails are one of the best ways to communicate with your clients, especially in B2B. So what I always recommend is Stripe. The invoice is automatically sent to your client when you create it for the first time. That will create a subscription. And with a bank transfer, on the other hand, you'll have to create the invoice and send it by email every month. On SoRank, you'll have an overview of all your analytics, overdue invoices, even those you haven't issued yet. And that's super important because the problem with agencies is that there are clients who only want to pay by bank transfer. But how do you set reminders for bank transfers? Because actually on all invoicing software, it's very easy to set a reminder for yourself. But when it's only done by bank transfer, not all software allows you to do that. So what I recommend is to use SoRank directly because it saves you a lot of time, also for your accounting, since agencies and companies have lots of different billing methods. In an SEO agency, it's always the same thing. There's always a deposit for the service, then there's a subscription, and then they might have budgets for backlinks. And so this really allows us to give you an overview of your business. Are there any missing invoices? Are there any overdue invoices? Are there any partially paid invoices? And you don't need to. When you generate an invoice, you don't need to send it by email because it will automatically be sent by email to your client when you add it to the client's file. Also, your client will be able to find it on their interface. And we'll see that later, what this ultra comprehensive interface is for your client so they can track your service without you having to give them daily updates. So the trap a little bit is, to combine Notion ClickUp or other CRMs and start generating an invoice on Abby, then keep your accounting on Notion, but in the end, to add the invoice on ClickUp or Monday. And actually, that's how you start getting bogged down in ultra annoying administrative processes that are not productive at all. Whereas with SoRank, you can be sure you'll be productive and have everything centralized. Let's move on to the next part. Proceed with onboarding only when the money is in your account, not when you've received a proof of payment, not when you've received a screenshot of a transfer, not when you've received a message confirming the transfer was made. Start working only when the money is in your account, because in my case, I had to use what's called Ruby Payeur. It's an online solution that allows you to send reminders, collection follow-ups in order to get paid. In this case, it's a 5-figure debt, actually more than 5 figures. And we're not talking about 10 or 20,000 euros here. We're above that. So there you have it. A client who didn't pay me a hefty sum when I had already started the service, invested in freelancers and so on. But because I wanted to trust too much, that company went into receivership. Not liquidation yet, but they went into receivership. So that means a court-appointed administrator came to their company and said, listen, the business is going under, we're going to put all your debts on hold, and from now on, we're going to control how every euro leaves the company. And of course, my invoice is in the pile. I don't know if it's on top or at the bottom, but they basically told me, we won't pay you before next year. And they told me that last fall. And now it's January, and I won't see that money before next summer, and I won't even get 5 figures. I might get less than 10,000 euros in compensation, but that's it. So please, and on top of that, I've already lost money on this job because I had invested some of my own funds. So I'm really showing you with complete transparency the mistakes I've made as well. Work with clients who have already paid you, even if it's just an advance. Now the money is in your account. Great. What you need to do now is update the client's file and mark them as a client. On the client's file, you'll be able to add all the replays as well as call R1, R2, and R3. R3 will be the kickoff call, but only once they've completed the next step, filling out the form and giving you access to the site. Why have them fill out another form when you've already had several calls with your client? Because there are probably plenty of things you discussed during the call, but you didn't go into detail because you didn't have the time. And above all, a very good way to properly frame the service is to ask your client a lot of questions without necessarily being on a call. So what I set up at OviRank was a fairly long, pretty robust onboarding process, but honestly, the client has paid us. The client has paid us, so you can absolutely tell them, listen, this is how we do things here. You'll need to set aside an hour of your time to complete our entire onboarding process, and that's totally fine. So what you need to do here is set up an onboarding process with several videos where you explain exactly how you work and what needs to be done. For example, here I was offering website creation and redesign, as well as SEO optimization, and there were 2 forms to fill out. For instance, for website creation and redesign, there was a very extensive form to complete. Once they've answered all of that, they can access the other services we offer, and then they'll be able to move on to the kickoff call to schedule a meeting with the people who work with me. And so thanks to this, we have a super efficient process where the client has paid us, gives us all the information, and then has a call with the person who will handle solving their problems. If you're a freelancer, you can set your own schedule. This is the R3, which is really the kickoff call, also known as the kickoff, and it's also included here. So what is the purpose of the kickoff call? To address anything that was missed in the form. 100% of the clients to whom we've sold a website always send us a message 2 hours later saying, oh shoot, I forgot to include this in the form. I think it's important. So to take some of the pressure off them, we do another kickoff call. We go through the form together and we really try to understand their environment. This is really the most important pillar, understanding the company's environment and context. You absolutely shouldn't show up being arrogant and thinking, yeah, I know everything, I'm great at SEO, I'm going to revolutionize their site. You really need to come into the company with humility and ask yourself, okay, what is the company's context? Explain it to me. What has already been put in place? What have you already tried? How do you find your clients? But really, even more in detail, who will you be interacting and coordinating with? It's extremely important to understand what has already been put in place because that's how you'll be able to deliver the best results. Imagine you're asking yourself about email marketing. They have an email list of 50,000 people, but maybe those people aren't qualified. But when you create content, when you publish blog articles, send an email to all those people so they go read the blog article, so they go check out the Google My Business page, leave reviews on the Google My Business page. Actually, the company's context is raw materials. So yes, sometimes raw materials are just, well, sand, nothing exciting. But sometimes raw materials are really good fertile soil, and this good fertile soil can be used to move forward with SEO and to generate even more traction for your service. I'm not saying you should immediately start an email marketing agency, but once again, it can help you develop your knowledge and skills in the field of online marketing. Connecting with all these people and different players will make you better and give you a global view of the company, not just the SEO segment. The old way of doing all this was basically you create the client file, you take the tasks from the quote and the audit you did, and you add them to your process. Then we'll find a freelancer and give them those tasks. After that, we'll take the form that's on Google Forms and export it to Google Sheets. Next, we'll set up an automation so that it sends everything directly to Notion, and we'll schedule a kickoff call for those who were missed. For the kickoff call, we'll take the TLD vel replay and put it on. Anyway, that's not possible. I tried to do it. I met agency founders who were also making tens of thousands of euros in revenue per month, and for some, tens of thousands of euros in profit per month with just 2 or 3 people in their company. But that's not possible, it just doesn't hold up, it doesn't work. You'll waste a week setting it up and it will keep breaking all the time. So the old method consists of manually going over the list of tasks from the process and the items from the quote, then copying everything into a document. You have to add the client's information, explain the context, provide access, and give this document to a freelancer. Tracking is then done manually with scattered exchanges with no direct link between the tasks, the quote, the deliverables, and the SEO tools used to provide the service. Here, that's easily an extra hour per client. So, the new 2.0 method with Serank is that since you already have your CRM with all the information you have entered, which is directly connected to the other features of the software that I will show you in a minute. Well, actually, the creation of the file is already done from the very first step we mentioned. The offers are directly integrated into Serank, so you just have to select the offer you sold to your client. Then you can easily assign a freelancer because you also have all your freelancers listed in your CRM. And finally, you have the form plus the kickoff call, which are on the client's file. So the client's file, even if they haven't been onboarded yet, you send them their file and they have all the questions, the form directly in Serank. So they fill in the information and it appears directly on their file. We no longer have Google Forms on one side and Notion on the other. It's all merged into one place. And on top of that, the client will already have access to their file. And of course, on the file, it doesn't say Serank. It has your agency's logo, so it's white labeled. Now with Serank, processes and tasks are structured within the CRM. The elements are automatically linked to the client, to the necessary accesses, to the retail in the calls, and to the history of exchanges. Tasks are assigned directly to the freelancer with all the context connected to the SEO features, which allows you to deliver to the client without re-entering data, without manual documents, and without any loss of information. Loss of information is what causes the greatest drop in satisfaction for SEO agencies. In the end, it turns into a real game of telephone because we all keep repeating the same information, documents get lost, and ultimately everyone wastes time. And time is going to mean money for you because you'll have to pay people. Now let's move on to deliverability. That's it. You have your team, you have your offers, you have the money, you have your client, you have everything. Now, how are we going to deliver what we've sold to the client? And this is where it's going to be super important to get organized right from the start so you don't end up burning out like I almost did twice in 2025. You'll need to determine a clear, structured, and prioritized list of tasks to complete in order to deliver what you've sold. So the roadmap will consist of 2 main tasks, the issues identified during the audit, and then the tasks from the invoice that were added for creating content and buying backlinks. The audit tasks are already predefined tasks. However, for the offers, you'll need to break them down into subtasks and therefore into processes. You'll be able to do this directly, as I showed you earlier, in your Serank interface, so that every time you sell an offer to different clients, the same process is duplicated in your to-do list. What's very important here is to understand that in order to delegate effectively, you'll need to break down a process into ultra-simple tasks. The simpler a task is, the easier it is to execute, the fewer errors there are, the higher the success rate, and the more easily the task can be delegated, even to a less experienced person, so the more profitable we become. It's very easy to stack one matchstick on top of another, but if tomorrow you tell someone, build me a matchstick castle, that's going to be impossible to do. On the other hand, if you give them a plan with 7,000 steps, stacking each matchstick with glue very precisely, they'll be able to build an amazing castle. It's just that you'll really need to break it down into as many simple steps as possible. And no matter how many steps there are, the simpler it is, the more effective it will be. Next, we'll have the assignment and tracking of freelancers, the who and the when. Who is carrying out a task, at what time, with what deadline and what priority? That can be set up later, depending on the deadline you've established. For each offer you set up, and for each issue identified in the audit, we will give you a resolution time. So this will really allow you to structure your offer and have some extra time so you're not always chasing after your client. And finally, quality control. So you'll need to carefully check the work done by your freelancers. Was it done properly? Even though with AI, most things can be executed. For example, have the images actually been changed on the website? Have the blog articles been properly published? That's something you'll need to check yourself, or have the project manager you hire check. The structure of the offers I recommend is always the same. The audit, the benchmark, clustering, article generation, backlinks and parasites, and the report. I'll explain that to you in a moment. One last thing before we move on to the big slides about how to deliver. Now we're going to look at how to create a good process for a freelancer. First, you really need to define a goal and clarify what is expected. What is a task? What does it correspond to, and what is its done status? It needs to be ultra clear. It shouldn't be something like, for example, improve a LinkedIn profile. That doesn't mean anything. You really need to say, okay, the profile picture needs to look like this. The banner needs to have these elements. The description needs to have this number of characters. The clearer it is, the more likely it will be done the right way. The faster you provide the tools, the less back and forth there will be. Record a real-life example. It's super important that you also make the video yourself. The problem is, if you don't film yourself doing a real example, you won't know if your process is suitable for solving the task. So it's important to film yourself and make this replay available to the person who will be carrying out the task. Next, you'll need to generate the transcript. You can easily do this by uploading your example video to YouTube and then giving it to ChatGPT to turn your script into a process in bullet points. This will save the person a lot of time so they don't have to rewatch the video every time. It's very important to include expected results at the end of your process, along with examples of success and examples of failure. This will help you clearly define the freelancer's task and let them know exactly what needs to be delivered. Point 7, you'll need to test and validate. If, at first, your freelancers make mistakes while carrying out the task, that's okay. You'll just need to thoroughly review their work afterwards to train them properly. Let's take a look right now at how to perform a technical audit of a site and what that involves. We're going to dive straight into technical corrections now. As I mentioned several times at the beginning of this video, technical corrections are about fixing technical issues to improve crawling, indexing, and SEO performance. The way to achieve this is by cross-referencing analyses from Google Search Console and Page Speed Insights to prioritize high-impact actions. That's what will help us identify the biggest issues. I've already made an extremely comprehensive video on how to break down Google Search Console, how to identify all the issues, and how to fix them all. But actually, today we're more in an era where you need to train yourself. So this video is really the most you can consume, I think, because we're going to gather all this information, as well as data from Page Speed Insights and other tools that analyze page content. Specifically, what we're going to enable you to do is to see all the errors reported by Google Search Console, indexing errors, speed errors, page performance errors, how to prioritize all these issues, how to implement the fixes, and how to check once you've implemented them. We're going to set all of that up for you right here. We'll generate the PDF audit for your site, but then all the tasks from the audit will be added here so you can fix them. And every time you click on open the task, you'll have a specific task to open. Here, you'll find all the issues to resolve that come from the audit. And every time you click on open the task, you'll get a tutorial on how to solve it and how to do it automatically with SERank when possible. So what we do with SERank is that we already perform the audit for you. We save you from juggling between 50 different tools that are often very expensive. We also save you from having to send your freelancers those kinds of reports that are pretty intimidating and don't make anyone want to work on them. So hundreds of points to check page by page. We give you a list of problems to solve, along with video and written tutorials on how to fix them so you can improve your client's website performance. And in most cases, the errors are really very basic, so you'll be able to fix everything right away with the audit and the to-do list. Now that you've fixed your client's site and it's on the right track, we're going to move on to keyword research and clustering. This is a huge topic because it's really the foundation of SEO. It's about knowing what people in our market are searching for, so we can determine what types of pages we need to create. If we're a cosmetic surgery clinic, what service pages will we need to create? Okay, we know that, for example, we do facelifts and we do Botox injections. That's great. But do people really search for Botox injection? Or are they actually looking for fork size or lip augmentation? Maybe they're searching for different keywords because they might not be educated about our market. And that's the purpose of keyword research, to find the keywords that our ideal clients are searching for online. And clustering means grouping them into categories so we can create relevant content and our site isn't a mess, but is well organized. As I was saying, selecting keywords helps us understand the market before producing anything. Key principle: 15% of searches are new every month. You shouldn't exclude plural keywords or those with spelling mistakes. It's normal for some keywords with spelling errors to show up simply because they're searched for many times, but you shouldn't make spelling mistakes yourself. Google recognizes common spelling errors, so don't fill your site with mistakes just to optimize SEO. A good selection of keywords helps identify searches related to a topic, not just the ones that come to mind at first glance. It allows you to measure demand. It also helps you understand the search intent behind each page. Are people looking to get information, to compare, or to buy? And it helps you spot SEO opportunities you can take advantage of against the competition. Maybe we can find keywords that are easier than others and can still bring us customers. It will also allow us to create content without traffic or business value. We can easily check if we have an idea. Is it an interesting angle or not? We'll prioritize what truly deserves to be addressed first, and this will allow us to align SEO content with our business goals. And above all, we're going to try to speak the same language as the users. In summary, selecting keywords is about deciding what to create, for whom, why, and especially when. So what's the purpose of clustering and creating silos now? A silo is something I use very often. It simply means grouping keywords together. For example, for our cosmetic surgery practice, we'll have a group of keywords about procedures, a group about risks, and a group about trends. That way, on our blog or our service page, we'll have categories that are easy for users to navigate. They'll be able to easily move from one category to another, and when they stay within a category, they can see all the services we offer them and all the related blog articles. Clustering makes it possible to turn a mass of keywords into a usable structure. It allows you to group keywords by intent, avoid creating multiple pages that cannibalize each other, clearly define that one page equals one intent, choose the right type of page, create a good site structure, strengthen relevance, make internal linking easier, limit site depth, and improve crawling. This will also make it easier for Google's bots to explore our website, and as a result, improve our ranking. In summary, clustering is used to turn data into a structured site that ranks. It's what will give us the structure of our site. So, up until now, we've had different tools that allowed us to do this in various ways. Either we would first look up the main keywords on Google Trends, or we could directly find competitors' keywords by scraping their sitemap and putting all the URLs of their pages into a Google Sheet, then turning them into an architecture like this to get an idea of what competitors are implementing. We also had other SEO tools that allowed us to show what the semantic architecture of our competitors was. What I find most interesting is to do this automatically, because no matter how you use competitors and some tools to understand their structures, you'll still need to have a human involved. So the simplest thing to do is first to get a list of content and then to structure it in a semi-automatic or fully automatic way, but using tools. And currently, there is no satisfactory tool that I have tested which only does the creation of SEO clusters and create a sustainable SEO asset. And here, be careful, big warning. Even if no one reads a blog post, it's still useful. It's possible that you haven't read a blog post in years, and that's okay. It still remains extremely useful, even if no one ever reads it. Why? Because it helps increase perceived expertise, topical authority, even if the article is rarely read, both for Google and for the bots. Providing signals to Google's bots and AI engines allows your site to be ranked and better referenced. It doesn't matter if people come or not. Whether or not anyone reads your blog post, it's still useful for your site. And precisely to create it in the best possible way, I've prepared a custom template to show you all the types of pages you should add to your site. And also, here's a set of guidelines for generating a good blog post. You don't even need to learn this, because we already automatically generate blog posts on Serang for you. So your content needs to have real depth. You'll need to have headings and subheadings. Categorized with HN tags, you'll need to have paragraphs and different styles. You'll need to include long sentences, short sentences, bullet lists, images when relevant, tables. In short, make the content as rich as possible. But above all, it should be based on what people are searching for. a conclusion, and a call to action. If people are visiting, it's always worthwhile to redirect them toward a call to action, signing up for the newsletter, or purchasing a product. An FAQ section will be extremely important for improving your SEO. And finally, create links between your content, so internal links to your different pages and external links to reliable and credible sources. And finally, make sure that the content you've created isn't plagiarized and that you haven't plagiarized yourself by duplicating content. You can go to the site duplishaker.com, which allows you to detect this. In any case, with Sarank, you won't need to check this because it's done automatically. I'll still explain to you what the old execution method was for writing blog articles. Before, we would extract keywords, often based on a large list from some software. We would manually analyze the keywords by hand and look them up on Google to see what the search intent was, what those websites were talking about, all done manually. We would read all the blog articles to detect, okay, for the keyword pop filter, I absolutely have to talk about sound quality, wind, and conditions. Weather conditions, for example. Then we would read the specifications document that the client had given us. Then we would either write it by hand when there was no AI yet, but now we would take prompts and copy-paste them into different AI models to get the best possible article. Or for people like me who were brave, we started creating monsters on make.com to check search intent and try to publish automatically on our site. In the end, these long-winded automations always end up breaking down. We always have problems. Or nowadays, there are a lot of AI tools that only do blog article generation. There are quite a few of them out there. The problem with that, once again, is that it adds another subscription to your agency and it doesn't always connect with other software. What we're offering you today is to generate articles directly after you've created your silos and selected your keywords. You'll be able to simply click on the Generate button. You'll just need to fill out a form once, specifying the tone you want to use and which reference images to include. And we'll take care of the generation. A blog article, but before that, we'll go do the research on Google. That's right, for each keyword, we'll go to Google, retrieve the top 10 ranking websites, scrape their content, and create the best possible brief for our AI. And the AI will generate exactly everything you need: the meta title, meta description, slug, image, the article itself, with all the internal linking, bolded keywords, and also lists when you have comparison articles. In any case, this method of execution really allows you to save a tremendous amount of time and, above all, to produce at scale. You can literally create hundreds of blog articles per month for your clients. And after 6 months, for example, if you've published 300 to 400 blog articles per month, you can say to yourself, okay, let's take stock today. Which blog articles have ranked the best? Those, we might rework them manually. Because it's clear that AI is very good at creating content, but you can always add more. Add images, add content manually, which can also make it a bit more human, even if it's not strictly necessary. Now that you've found the keywords and the silos, generate the articles. There will surely be pages on your clients' sites that need to be optimized. These pages to optimize will appear in the audit because they might be too thin in content or not aligned with the search intent. And in this part of the video, I'm going to explain everything to you. So, optimizing an SEO page isn't just about adding keywords. Above all, it's about aligning a page with what Google expects for a given query. First, we're going to try to understand what search intent is. Before any optimization, you need to answer one question. Why is the user making this search? Are they looking for information, comparison, to buy something, a service, or to navigate somewhere? If the intent is misunderstood, the page won't be able to rank. The SERP, so the search engine results page. That's the technical term for Google's results for a given keyword. The SERP is the absolute reference point. You need to observe the types of pages, the features Google displays, the dominant format, and the editorial angles in order to create the right content. Here, for example, we have two keywords. We have the keyword Botox and Botox injection. Personally, I want to bring clients to my client. I look at the intent, and the intent for Botox injection, it's commercial. That means when people type Botox injection into Google, they want to buy, they want to purchase something. But when they type Botox, they're looking for information. So, for Botox, you'll need to write a blog article, whereas for the keyword Botox injection, we'll see what needs to be done. And little spoiler, you'll need to create a commercial page, but with a bit of information. I'll show you that right away. So, the second step is to validate the right type of page. A lot of pages don't rank because the format doesn't match the content. So, precisely, to validate the right type of page, that's exactly what we're doing here with the creation of blog articles. In fact, here for creating blog articles, we're going to look at the top 10 sites ranking for the keyword we've chosen. Here, we're going to do exactly the same thing, but I'll show you manually what that looks like. So we're going to analyze the SERP. So here, when you type Botox injection into Google, you'll see other recommended keywords. We'll see the AI-generated summary. Next, we'll see the number one page that's ranked at the very top, and that's the one we're probably going to analyze the most. But we'll look at that later. Next, we'll look at the questions, other pages, videos, including those from YouTube, but also from clinic websites, images, other results, and related searches. So let's scroll back to the top and check out the highest ranked page. So the highest ranked page is this one, Botox injection. Botulinum toxins. So here, we already have a first box with a definition. We have a definition, we have internal linking, it's great. So here we can see, okay, we'll need to talk about informational content, definitions, a bit like a blog article. Next, here we'll have several treated areas, and then we'll explain how an injection session unfolds. So here, we're no longer just dealing with informational content, we're starting to get a bit into conversion, starting to enter the commercial journey. How does a session actually go? What are the immediate side effects afterwards? We'll have images, examples, bullet lists. And finally, what is the price of Botox injections? Then we'll have a FAQ. So at this point, it really looks like a blog article, but with a bit of a conversion angle. And then after that, we have this crucial section, which is literally about booking an appointment. Book an appointment, get more information with a map. And Google knows exactly what that corresponds to. It knows very, very well what that corresponds to. We could have put a form here, it would have been more or less the same thing. And if there's an area and additional treatment, here we have links to other pages, the newsletter, and that's it. So this is the perfect example of a hybrid page between purely informational and commercial intent. If it were not for that box at the bottom, it would have been 100% informational. But here, since there's an incentive to make an appointment with questions that are really quite leading about how the injection session unfolds, we can say that this is really a commercial page. Let's also take a look here. The rich FAQs on Snippet. Why is it super important to include FAQs? Because if you properly implement FAQs on the page using the right technique, you can end up right here with highly relevant questions. And here we can actually go and look at the sites. The sites answer these questions every time directly on their page in a very clear way. So these questions absolutely need to be included on the page. And here, if I wanted to improve the first page, which is already in the top position, I could take these questions. For example, what is a Botox injection? He wrote, what is Botox? But he didn't explain what a Botox injection is. He didn't define it. So maybe he could add this question to be really, really thorough. Next, we'll look at the rest of the pages, positions 2 and 3. And these pages often confirm what we deduced from the first page. So here, you can see it's a huge, huge, huge amount of content. So honestly, it really looks like a blog article in the end. Since at the end, there are comparison tools and especially a big box for booking an appointment, I think Google and also other tools like SEMrush define this as commercial intent. Here, you have the consultation locations, the doctors you can book appointments with, the buttons to book appointments, and all the information. So here, we're really dealing with an informational intent that's more commercial. It often happens that Google highlights 2 different types of pages for the same keyword to really provide a complete answer to its users. Here, page 5 doesn't have any call to action to book an appointment with the institute. So we can say that it's purely an informational page, and there are exceptions like this that exist, where the keyword is so highly searched that Google wants to make sure it highlights different types of content and different types of pages. However, we can still conclude, based on the indications we've had so far from the research tool and also from Google's results, that we need to create a commercially oriented page and therefore include a recommendation to book an appointment with the clinic. Here, to quickly touch on videos, if you make videos on YouTube, it can be really great to put them directly on a page like this, one after the other. They can then be indexed and thus well referenced. Because there is often much less competition for videos, since they require a lot more effort to produce. Also images, when you create a page, you'll need to publish images on it to make it a bit more engaging. And so for that, you'll need to add alt tags. Alt tags are kind of like the keywords of the pages, used to describe what the page refers to. And as we can see, the very first well-optimized image, the image is visible on the page, but so is the alt tag. The alt tag is usually just in the code, it's not visible to the user. But personally, I always like to make it visible so that everyone can clearly see it. And so that bots can also easily scrape it. It adds a keyword to the page, and that's great. Also, here we have another keyword. There are lots of keywords. Actually, when it comes to ALT tags, it's a real skill to write well-optimized descriptions for images. So, concretely, how have we been optimizing pages since the dawn of the internet? Back then, we looked at rankings between 8 and 20 plus, which are the ones not on the first page of Google results. Then we started using tools like 1.fr. Manually, since they don't have an API, we had to copy and paste our text directly, our keyword, and then rewrite it with an AI and update it afterwards. Also check the backlink factor, check the search intent, and in the end, waste time. Today, we scan all your pages for you and automatically rewrite them. If there are missing keywords, missing text, or if they're not at all aligned with the right search intent. If you've written a blog post that should actually be a collection page, we'll rewrite it for you and inform you with the audit. So here, you'll either be able to automatically regenerate all the content with the audit, or you'll have a text editor like this, showing you the missing keywords so you can add them. Here's how the audit will look. If you want to click on Optimize to use the right keyword and thus match the correct search intent, you can do so. The article will be regenerated, and you can copy and paste it directly onto your site. So, as I was saying, there are two possibilities. Either you do a manual optimization, page by page, in expert mode with this interface, or you can optimize everything at once with the audit in an automated way. Then, once we're done with that, I'd just like to talk to you about internal linking. So, this is something that's done automatically when you generate a blog article, but it's great for me to explain it to you concretely, just for your SEO knowledge, in case a client ever asks you about it. As we saw earlier, your SEO has some juice. So actually, it has a strength that you can redirect to certain pages you want to rank well. It's represented, let's say, a bit like a liquid. Depending on where the page is located on the site, it will have less liquid. And if, for example, you want to give a lot of strength to that page, you can directly put a link from the home page to that page, and as a result, it will give it a lot of strength, because the home page is generally the one with the most strength on a website. So here, we could just make a link from the home page to that page. But as you've understood, the goal is for the SEO juice to be well distributed across our entire site, so that there aren't any orphan pages, as we call them, meaning there are no links between them. To do this, what we're going to do is set up internal linking. These are the links you see on the pages. For example, here on page number 1, we saw lots of internal linking on keywords. So here, for example, on the keyword hyaluronic acid, there's a link that probably redirects to a blog article about the benefits of hyaluronic acid. And we're going to have different strategies. We'll have a smart strategy that specifically redirects certain pages to boost them more than others. Then there's the classified internal linking strategy, which means we only create links between articles that are in the same silo. And finally, there's the Wikipedia method, which is to create links absolutely everywhere on every possible and imaginable keyword. The problem with that is that, although it's rather enjoyable to do, we often end up sending a lot of strength to pages that don't need it, pages that might already be in first position. So actually, it's pretty complicated to do internal linking by hand, because you have to ask yourself, okay, what are the rankings of all the pages for their keywords? And at that point, for the pages that rank the lowest for their keywords and are the most important to us, we'll add links to them. For example, if this service page is really ranking poorly, we'll add lots of links from other articles to that page, so that it will be better referenced. Similarly, from product pages, we can really highlight a page so that it ranks higher on Google by adding links. So for example, in articles, we could mention this service page and create links to it. Since we already have a global view of your site from crawling it during the audit, we can recommend exactly which links to add. And when we rewrite the articles, if there are links that need to be added, we insert them directly without even telling you. The links are placed, you optimize all the pages, and new links have appeared. You know it's specifically to optimize your internal linking, not in the Wikipedia way, but in a smart way, the one that works best. Up until now, as I said, it was time-consuming and had to be done manually. There are very few tools that are truly effective in this area. We've developed an amazing technology that allows us, either from automatically generated articles or from the silo, to insert links into the content we regenerate and that you can implement directly on your site. Now that we've defined the internal linking, we'll move on to the next part. GEO, so SEO in AIs and also netlinking. For me, GEO should be done before netlinking because it allows us to select links that firstly help improve our site's authority, which is what netlinking usually does, but also to choose links that are already well cited by AIs. That's why I recommend first conducting a GEO analysis before implementing netlinking. And actually, we could even do the same thing. First, do the GEO analysis before selecting and creating keyword clusters, because there are plenty of keywords we'll find that AIs regularly use to reference us. There are several steps we'll take to properly optimize our site for AIs. The first thing is to check whether AIs are able to access our site. Because if, for example, you're using Cloudflare like I am, well, by default, AIs are blocked. So I had to go on Cloudflare and click on Do Not Block AI Bots. So allow all AIs to access my site and actually take all the content that's on my site. So we actually detect that automatically. The second thing is to conduct a visibility audit, AI. So understand if and how AIs are talking about you. To do that, first we'll analyze the traffic. AI traffic via Google Search Console and Google Analytics. With us, if you connect Sorank to Google Analytics, you can already see if you've received visits from AIs in the past. So in fact, we can import your entire data history and tell you what has happened over the last 6 months, 12 months, or 24 months on your site thanks to Google's tools. Next, we'll be able to select different prompts, create various prompts, and send them to AIs every day in order to find out whether you are being mentioned or not. Thanks to this, we can track the evolution of mentions and the keywords that AIs use to answer your questions. So for example, if we want to take action on the AIs, we'll focus on the keywords where we haven't been mentioned. And we'll create content on our website through blog articles. And also by purchasing links in the press that will talk about us. To give you a very concrete example, here, for instance, I looked up, what is the best agency to buy links that are already mentioned in AIs? I was only mentioned twice in ChatGPT. So here, I could go into all the models, isolate only ChatGPT, and focus on that keyword. Mention tracking AI bias detection entity identification. This is a keyword that ChatGPT has searched for 11 times. We're not really sure why. In any case, what I do know is that I'll be able to create informational content about that keyword in order to show ChatGPT that my site is well positioned for that keyword and thus get a mention every time someone asks the question. And that's how, in the end, we're going to improve our presence. Also, if I see that, for example, YouTube was mentioned, or Reddit or LinkedIn, well, that's what we call SEO parasites. Basically, social media platforms allow us to rank really well. For example, I once did a test where I created a blog post about the 10 best software tools. SEO, I managed to reach the second position in just a few days simply by publishing that article, even though the first result had a very high authority score. But since I came in with a LinkedIn article right away, I managed to rank above them. And actually, even beating Burger, who had an authority score of 26, and The Partner, who had an authority score of 29 and pretty good monthly visitors, we managed to get ahead of them directly, thanks to our LinkedIn article. So this is a strategy, SEO parasites, that is effective for improving in the field of AI specifically. If we see that in our sector, there are already parasite sites that are regularly mentioned. And so, to wrap up on this point, we call them SEO parasites because they parasitize the SERP and quickly rise up the rankings by leveraging the authority of these big domain names. To get back to how to be well referenced in AIs, you need to understand that AIs must be able to access our site. Next, audit our visibility in AIs by regularly sending prompts. AIs will then look for prompts on the internet, so based on the 3 pillars of traditional SEO, but also by checking online reviews, media, and the recurrence of citations. The most important thing to be mentioned in AIs and what you need to remember is to have as many mentions as possible of your brand or company in all possible media on the first page. So whether it's YouTube videos, press articles, reviews, Trustpilot, LinkedIn posts, Google My Business listings, Reddit posts, or just informational websites, you need to be present as much as possible on the websites that keep coming up in the responses to the prompts that you will send daily through this ranking. So the old way of doing things was to send questions to ChatGPT every day. Thank you. To ask it what the best software and the best companies in your field were, and to store that in a Google Sheet. As you've understood, it's not really possible to keep up with that regularly. ChatGPT is influenced by your history, sometimes your browser, or even your location. So it's really not a scientific way to approach the problem. For Payaka, what we've put in place is our new execution method. What we're going to let you see are the pages already visited by AIs like ChatGPT. Then to understand which content is working already, even partially, on your site. And then we'll be able to start sending prompts to AIs every day to tell you, okay, for certain prompts, you're better ranked than others. And for the others, you can actually create content and pages directly with the feature. Blog article. As you've understood, all the features are interconnected. And we're able to manage all the data from your site and your market directly within this rank. So what we're going to do here is that we're going to prioritize certain content for you to rewrite using our software. And so we won't be creating content just based on gut feeling. It will be directly aligned with your previous analyses that we've already done, specifically based on the pages that have already been visited, and especially on the competitors who dominate your industry. Everything is automated to allow you to move on to the next step as smoothly as possible when purchasing your links. Now let's talk about netlinking. Netlinking is used to improve your site's authority by showing that you have connections and that people are talking about you, and so that Google can trust you. What you need to understand is that since AI appeared, AI has generated deflation, meaning deflation is when the price drops, even though quality and quantity increase. Since ChatGPT arrived, since AIs have come along, we've had a huge number of software tools generating blog articles, whereas before, blog articles were written by hand. So in fact, every time there was an update in AI, the price of articles dropped. So actually, it has become a real commodity. Blog articles. Everyone can generate them pretty quickly now, and as a result, they've lost their value. It's the same for technical issues and site problems. Websites have fewer and fewer bugs, because today, with any website or any site that's been made, with AI, you can directly send your site's analyses to ChatGPT and fix them pretty quickly. Whereas before, you needed a developer to fix them. So, as we can see, the two main pillars of SEO have been directly impacted by AI, and as a result, there's been better quality for less money, which creates deflation. And the only pillar that hasn't been affected by AI is netlinking. So, netlinking, just to remind you, is the process of getting external links. And what does that look like? For example, you have website 1 that writes a blog post on a great topic, mentions another site, and sends SEO power to website 2. So you might think, okay, well, my goal is to buy a bunch of backlinks, ask all my friends who have websites to link to me. And I won't link to anyone, that way I'll steal all their SEO power and it'll be awesome. But it's not a good idea to never link out. It's actually a good idea to create links and share some of that power. In fact, otherwise Google will see you in a very negative light. I think you know who this man is, Joseph D. Mambrou. He's a cult founder, like the Order of the Solar Temple. Well, that ended very, very badly. So Google will literally see you like that, like a cult founder, if you actually only talk about yourself, if you act like a superstar on the internet and never create backlinks to other websites and just buy them. Google will find that really, really suspicious. So I don't recommend saying to yourself, okay, we're going to keep everything for SEO purposes. We're not going to make any links. Your site needs to look natural. So it also needs to create links. And if we ask ourselves, okay, what's the most important pillar today? In the past, when we had two websites with equal content and technical quality, we could say, okay, both sites will rank the same way. But today, authority trumps everything because we're in this current situation where technical issues are easy to fix and anyone can produce hundreds of blog articles with AI and a bit of elbow grease. So it's super important today, if I want to boost, for example, this site of mine, that I have other websites giving me backlinks. For example, to move up here, I would need a site C to link directly to this page so that I can climb higher. So now you really understand the importance of backlinks, the strategy, and how it all fits together. Now, there are different types of backlinks that have different types of attributes. So we have do-follow links, which are the most common. These are the ones that are the most valuable because they pass on SEO juice. We talked earlier about SEO juice, but this type will send you strength. So as you can see here on Krembartai, I created a do-follow link directly to my agency's website. The no-follow link doesn't pass on any juice, but it's useful for diversification. If you only have do-follow links, it's a bit suspicious because it could show Google that you're trying to over-optimize. So for example, for all the links in my footer, I use no-follow links because I don't want to pass on any strength. So these sites are really useless. sending strength to social networks. Next, we have UGC links. These are generally found on platforms where you can leave comments. The platform will say, these links, I don't know them, they're links posted by users. So this often allows the platform to avoid responsibility. Then we have sponsored links. The previous links are tags we use to tell Google, okay, what this link is for. What I recommend is to always have 80% no follow links and 20% do follow links. It can go down to 50-50 if you want, but it's always good to be diversified. Personally, I prefer to have more no-follow links because they are generally the most natural links that we set up, even though no-follow links actually pass the most authority. Next, we have a contextual link. A contextual link is simply a link within a body of text on a word. These are the most traditional types of links. Then you can have a link in the footer or in the sidebar. So often this is used to link to a social network or the creator of a page, etc. It brings a lot of authority, but precisely because it brings so much authority, sometimes you have to be careful with it because it can be a bit too powerful in Google's eyes. So you shouldn't overdo it. Not overdoing it means there should be less than 10% of them. Personally, I like to say there should be less than 10%. Next, there are also links that can be placed on images. For example, in a top 10 list, you can easily put a link on the image that redirects to the site. And finally, you can have a link in a frame, so directly within embedded code. For example, as soon as you embed a calendar, there is often a do follow link that goes directly to the software founder's website. Now let's look at the different sources of backlinks. So we've seen the different tags, the various places where they can be placed. Now let's see what the different sources of backlinks are. We have natural sources that come from spontaneous links or guest articles. When you ask a friend to write an article about you and you write one about him, then you have profiles in directories. You can create an account on a website and there will be a link directly on your profile. That's pretty cool. There are also specialized directories. Directories like the yellow pages have really been overused, so they're not very useful anymore. They don't pass much juice. Then there are social networks. Personally, I think they pass a lot of juice, especially if you send visitors from social networks. I think Google really notices that. If you send qualified visitors from your social networks to your site, I think Google really likes that. Next, we have forums and comments. These are often called ninja backlinks because you kind of drop them like a ninja. Often, you can do this in blog comments and it works very well. And then we have press releases. This is a direct link that will be placed in a major media outlet like Forbes, for example. But you have to be careful because sometimes these big links are so deep within the site, and since there's no internal linking, as we saw earlier, these pages can often lose a lot of strength, and sometimes they can even disappear and no longer be indexed. So you need to be careful. These are not the ones with the highest return on investment in terms of SEO strength. So how do you manage to get links? It's not that complicated, but you still need to understand why people would link to you and not to someone else. First, you need to understand that some links are harder to get than others. For example, getting a link to your blog post, that's easy. But to your product or collection page, it's very difficult because it's transactional, so the person might potentially send you customers without getting anything in return. You also need to understand what a link represents. A link represents a relationship between what the site editor shares with their readers. If an editor shares a link in their article, it means they trust you directly, and that can affect the relationship they have with their audience. So why would people share your link? You need to understand it's to prove they're right, to add credibility to themselves or their business, or to things they trust. So if tomorrow you want to contact someone, keep this in mind. I didn't decide to make a diagram for manual outreach, whether it's by email or traditional prospecting, because honestly it works less and less, and it only works if you have a big site that's already performing very well. So what I prefer to do is link baiting instead, which means creating high potential content. Often I make generators, quizzes, or other interactive things. These work really well, bring in a lot of visitors, and are pretty easy to set up. You just have to generate a code with ChatGPT or Claude, a generator with your branding, and that's also a strategy we implemented for a client at the agency, which got really great results. Now, in SoRank, we won't allow you to create tools for the moment because there's little interest and very few clients are going to generate tools. On the other hand, if you're an agency or if you have lots of different clients, well, sometimes it can be a good idea to create simulators, tools, or other interactive pages like this one. In the end, if you have a good network and know quite a few people around you, you can easily arrange exchanges, either simple exchanges or even triangular exchanges. Triangular exchanges are the best because, as a result, Google can't catch on that you're doing exchanges with lots of other people. Ultimately, of course, creating quality content plus SEO. So, for example, if you release a YouTube video, it could be really important to turn it into a blog article and hope that someone links to you. Also, it can be a good idea to analyze your competitors' links to see if there are any links that were made naturally, and maybe you could contact those people if they've linked to your competitors. Well, as you can see, link acquisition is long, it's tedious, you're not sure about the return on investment, and above all, you're not sure people will respond to you. And so, based on all these problems, lots of businesses have sprung up, many companies in France and abroad, that are backlink platforms. So you can directly buy links on sites that are either dedicated to that, so really useless sites just stuffed full of links, or you have platforms that place links on existing sites. And so I've tested a lot of them already. Fiverr, ComeUp, Upwork, they're all to be thrown away. I really tried the people with the best ratings. I placed lots of orders. I spent several €100, and honestly, every time it's terrible. Either the indexing isn't done, or the sites are in French, Chinese, English, or there are grammar mistakes. It's not relevant. There are missing titles, missing meta descriptions. In short, even the one who got a 6 out of 10, his site was full of completely useless content, really just plain bad. There are platforms that have specialized specifically in link analysis, like SEMrush, Ahrefs, and especially Majestic, which is an extremely comprehensive tool, but only for link analysis. It's a bit of a shame to pay almost €90 a month just to get link analysis. And finally, there are sites that are made solely for creating links. These are what we call PBNs. So these really aren't sites created to do business, but only created to sell links, sell links, sell links. So what I really recommend is to forget about PBNs and just build real links. Either you know people around you, or you go directly and buy links. We made a deal with a top quality net linking platform where you can directly buy links, and that will allow you to set up links pointing to your site. Then, for tracking and analysis, you'll need to look at several factors. Generally, how many links you've obtained, whether your authority score is increasing or not. It's based on several things, on 3 criteria: the authority of the links pointing to you, the clicks on those links, whether the links pointing to your site actually generate visits or not, and the number of links. What's good is to have a balance between these 3, not to have, for example, 300,000 links that never get any clicks, but rather to have natural links. That's why Google enforces all these conditions, to make sure there are fewer and fewer cheaters. And ultimately, the distribution between quality and anchor text is important. It shouldn't be over-optimized. There should be a variety of keywords, whether it's your brand name, read more, learn more, etc. Then you'll be able to identify the categories of sites that are linking to you, so it's important that they're in the same industry as you. It's also important to have a good mix in terms of authority, not just huge sites linking to you, but not only microsites either. As for the types of backlinks, that's not very important. You can really mix it up between text, image, and other types of links. Risks and precautions. You need to be careful when setting up links not to buy too many links for certain keywords, otherwise you could end up being penalized. Then, regarding spammy links, I actually did a ton of tests on all those sites, Fiverr, Upwork, ComeUp, on my own website, which ended up getting me categorized as having dangerous links. So literally, there were some really bad links pointing to my site. Over time, my authority kept growing, and there are plenty of links that I can disavow, that is, remove them, and that hasn't stopped me from continuing to improve my rankings and increase my visitors. Let's say there are fewer negative impacts than positive ones, so you still need to keep building links, even if sometimes you get small warnings like that. It's important to create quality links, and above all, don't forget, everything can be manipulated. All the metrics you see on different tools can be manipulated. There are some real geniuses, honestly, at this level. It's genius how they manage to manipulate everything. It's really like piracy, but as you can see, you can have very high authority scores, huge traffic numbers, simply because there have been, well, just traffic manipulations for months and months. How many backlinks should you buy? So it doesn't depend on your budget, it depends solely on your competition. Obviously, if you're limited to a few €100 per month, just start by setting up a few backlinks every month. The goal is to be consistent. That's really what will pay off. So buy at least 1 link per month on SEO Rank. This will allow you to start growing your authority score. Ultimately, the right volume is measurable and the right number and size of backlinks can be measured against your competitors. What kind of authority do your competitors currently have? Which pages are they ranking first on with strong authority? That's what will help you decide which links to buy. I don't really want to go into detail here because this video is already extremely comprehensive. Specifically, what we're offering you with SEO Rank is simply to save you from having to test 50 different backlink platforms. There are so many out there, some with reviews, some without, and so on. Previously, I used to give you a link building routine recommending certain platforms. In the end, there were platforms I spoke with on the phone that really weren't satisfactory for me at all. So what I decided to do was to take the bull by the horns and create a technology myself that would recommend the best links for you based on all the keywords you're targeting, the pages you need to build links to, and also by analyzing the data from the sites available on our marketplace, which has over 100,000 links, and actually recommend which links are the most relevant for your clients. Everything is centralized on SEO Rank. So when you order a link for your client who has already paid you the budget, it will be directly added to their space in their client view, which I already showed you earlier. So once again, this is going to save you a tremendous amount of time. Now let's move on to the next service you can offer. So these are the other services. They're really not the main ones. The main ones are really everything I presented earlier, and those are probably going to represent 90% of your revenue. As an SEO agency, there's a good chance you'll be selling websites, and it's super important to be well organized for that. So I'm going to show you my routine and my ultra simple positioning. First thing, the sale and the initial setup. Sales call with a very detailed form during onboarding to really get all the information. I'll make this form available to you so you can copy and paste it, because honestly, I had to sell a lot of websites before optimizing it and figuring out everything that needed to be added to avoid wasting time. This form takes a long time to fill out, but once it's completed, it really does the job for my team, who can then go on to build websites in an ultra efficient way, choosing and purchasing the domain name. So the domain name needs to be short but ethical, ideally with some keywords included, easy to pronounce in both French and English, and it must not be protected by a registered trademark. Then I go to Name Checker, which lets me see if the name is available as a username on other social networks. I buy it with the extension either .fr if I'm only targeting the French market, or else .com if I'm going international, and I usually buy it on Namecheap. I've never had any issues. They're great. It's not that expensive, and Hostinger is also a good French alternative. Next, we'll choose the CMS and hosting. Generally, I only use Webflow. I'm with Webflow myself, but it depends on the site. So you can also go with Shopify or WordPress depending on your needs. And then we're back to SEO. We optimize all the pages, create the pages, index them, check everything, and then deliver to the client. I recommend that if you're selling websites, always sell the same service that you provide. That means always having your main offer, and if you want to sell a website as an add-on, include a budget with a maximum number of pages. This way, you'll make sure not to waste time when you have a client who needs a website. Next, what's very important is how you're going to organize yourself to create the site. When I used to make stores on Shopify, I always used the full stack theme. It's truly the best theme ever if you want your clients to make money and have good SEO rankings. Fullstack is really the best SEO Shopify theme you can choose. Then if you go on Webflow, you can either create a site with AI on Helium, or you can buy a template. I often buy a template and later on I'll customize it, and in the end you'll have access to this wireframe. So these are all the sections you'll need to set up on your clients' sites to make sure they convert better and are well optimized for SEO. Once you've delivered your client's site, you can move on to the next steps: keyword research, optimization, content generation, internal linking, and translation. That's it for creating an e-commerce site and a migration. Now let's talk about satellite sites. So it's basically the same as creating a regular site, except that we're going to create several of them in order to link back to the main site. For example, these could be informational sites that we create to boost our own authority. They can also be specialized sites. For example, here you could have dietary supplement sites focused solely on inflammation, supplements just for osteoporosis, supplements for osteoarthritis, for rheumatism, and all of these would then be linked to the main site. What's really important, as I've noted here, is to never create links between the different satellite sites. It's really crucial, if you don't want to be detected by Google, to only create links to the main site. Then you can build backlinks to the smaller sites, and you can even use a backlink that points to several at once. The goal is to make sure there are no direct links. For the creation, you have plenty of methods. So here, I've put together a complete process for managing domains, hosting, and infrastructure. What you need to remember is that you must keep everything separate. Above all, don't use the same legal pages for each site. Don't buy the domain names from the same hosting providers. If you want to sell a service like this, it's great. You can sell a service like this for several tens of thousands of euros to a large company. It's incredibly powerful. However, what you'll really need to do is protect yourself to deliver the service properly. So you'll need to buy different themes, sign up with different email addresses for the various accounts, and make sure the domains are with different hosting providers so that there's no copied content or structure between the satellite sites, that there are significant variations in tone and length, no mass publishing on the same day, and no links between the satellite sites. These sites follow the same SEO rules we discussed earlier. If you now want to translate a website, it's a great way to boost the SEO of your site or your client's site. For example, here, all the pages in EN brought me 18,000 visitors. These are all the pages that I translated into English. So just by translating my site, I added more than 18,000 visitors to my site, which is really not bad considering that over the last 6 months, I had about 80,000 visits. So that's literally more than 20% of my traffic, even 30% of my traffic actually. For that, there's a whole process that I recommend. Personally, I recommend using slashes. I don't recommend building a site from scratch just to translate it. It's better this way. We're going to add subfolders with a proper Reflang structure. So I'll show you that next. I always use AI to translate my pages. So always ChatGPT, I don't use DeepL, and then I have someone check it afterwards. So I translate absolutely everything. The URL, the title, the meta description, the content, and the image alt tags. That's something that's often forgotten. Here are a few strict rules. Each language has its own independent internal linking structure. You should never link between French and English pages. They're really two separate internal link structures. It's like different silos, no links to another language. Menu, footer, and breadcrumb all need to be translated. Call to action should be adapted to the language. So for apps, if you're on Shopify, I recommend Translate and Adapt plus ChatGPT. Translate and Adapt is really an excellent app. It's Shopify's native app. For WordPress, I've marked them in red because I've never really tested them. I'm really not a WordPress guy at all. I'm much more of a Webflow person. Localization plus ChatGPT is really the best of the best. What's great about Webflow is that hreflang tags are generated automatically. This is what lets you tell Google that you have multiple languages on the same website. Then, once everything is set up, you publish the site with all the other translated pages at once. We submit the sitemaps and fix any errors if there are any. And if some pages aren't indexed, you can add them one by one in Google Search Console. Now let's move on to local SEO. How can you improve your GMB listings presence directly on Google? To improve your business listing, there are several steps you need to follow. You need to identify your actual catchment area, not all of France, but your real catchment area. If you select all of France, your ranking will be very poor. Next, you'll need to define the main city and the secondary areas. Once you've defined that, you can create the listing and verify ownership. This part is really annoying. So if you create a Google My Business listing with a brand new email address, it's very likely you'll have to go through a video verification. That means you'll have to film the business from the outside with a visible sign. It's really annoying, especially if you live far from your workplace and especially if you don't have a visible sign. So if you have an old email address you can use to create a Google My Business listing, that's great. You'll also need to set the primary category. This is the most important, and the secondary categories. Once you've set that up on your Google My Business listing, there won't be a lot of tabs to fill out. So you'll need to fill out all the sections of your Google My Business listing to have a locally SEO optimized description. Here you can actually generate it with ChatGPT by including your city name and the services you offer. Next, create detailed services with local keywords for each service you provide. The same goes for products if you offer any. Accurate opening hours for each day are really important because having precise and correct hours actually influences your ranking on Google Maps. And finally, you really need to set up the link to your website with a small UTM tag, which you can easily create by asking ChatGPT. The photo tab will be your best ally for climbing up the Google results. So it's really important that you add real or semi-real photos, for example, of your website. You'll also need to rename the images with the keyword you want to rank for and also add short videos. This also works extremely well on your Google My Business listing. In point 5, you'll need to publish posts regularly on your business profile. You'll be able to add them directly in the post section. And here, what I recommend is to feature the pages you've already created on your website, as I showed you at the very beginning of the video in the acquisition section. Next, number 6, managing customer reviews. Here, you absolutely need to respond to everyone in a personalized way using light keywords. That means you'll need to include keywords you want to rank better for, or local keywords related to your city. Speaking of your city, next we'll set up local internal linking. So it can be really useful to create direct links from your website to your Google My Business page if your site is already well built. Next, you can also look for local and external citations directly from local directories, your city hall, or other physical businesses in your city. This can work really well for you. Finally, point 10, automation and scalability. You can't automate your Google My Business post yourself. It's not possible. There are a few software tools that exist, but they're not the best of the best, having tested them myself. Some of them work well. What matters most is providing an excellent customer experience at your establishment and encouraging as many people as possible to help you get well ranked. If you want a little juicy hack from me, you can go to your competitors' listings, see which keywords come up the most, and ask your own customers to include those keywords or to reply to comments using those keywords if you want to be better ranked than them. Now, let's talk about how to sell a marketplace. I love this business model. It's a topic that can really be explored for hours and hours. I've already made several videos about it on my YouTube channel. So here you really have the essence of everything you need to know to create a marketplace. To create a marketplace, you first need to know what your main objective is. Do you want to get a contact request, a call? Do you want to get a direct sale or not? In general, I use a marketplace as an acquisition channel for lead generation or as proof of skills. If you, for example, are launching an SEO agency tomorrow and want to prove your skills, creating a marketplace is a very good way to quickly attract a lot of visitors to showcase your expertise. So first, you'll need to choose a niche with demand that can be tapped into through Google. So you just need to make sure that there are enough searches in that market. Next, you'll need to define the structure of the marketplace. This is the most important part, and it all happens right here. I'm going to show you all the pages and all the databases that are on this marketplace. This one is my affiliate marketplace where I've set up a lot of databases. We have the AI tools database, but we also have the categories database, as well as blogs and articles, the professions related to the tools, and the features of the tools. And by setting this up as different databases, it gives me a lot of references and allows us to cross-reference information. And so we can have exceptional internal linking. So for step 3, you'll need to create dynamic CMS, set up a main collection, city, service, profile, and then have secondary collections. You'll need to prepare the database. So here you'll scrape and then import a clean list in CSV format into Google, filtering intelligently based on business potential. So you'll need to clean the slugs and values before injecting them into your marketplace. Step 5, you'll need to create a conversion-oriented page template. As you can see here, I created a page with all the internal linking, including a comparison of the text I generated automatically with AI. Once you've defined the structure, you'll be able to enrich your database by automating content generation. You'll be able to cross-reference you'll be able to ask the AI to directly browse the web to find information on, for example, the software or physical establishments you can feature in your marketplace. And so, with a very simple automation on Make, you'll be able to create content in an ultra-personalized way. We didn't plan to automate this in this round because it's so specific that we're going to do it. So, not a lot of use cases then. Just know that if you want to learn more about this topic in depth, I really recommend you watch my 2 videos where I create the marketplace with you right before your eyes and get results. It's honestly completely crazy. So if you're interested, go check out those videos once this one is finished. If in your agency you choose a geo-positioning, meaning SEO in the AIs, it's very likely that you'll attract clients who aren't running large companies, but who are public figures. They'll probably be interested in reputation management services. That is, how AIs perceive them and how online content about them influences the way AIs see them. To do that, you'll first need to understand what reputation management actually is. Reputation management refers to all the visible and accessible information on the internet about a business, a person, or a brand. It includes search results, Google, review platforms, social networks, media, forums, and now AI-generated responses. Today, it's no longer just what you say that matters, but what AIs understand and repeat about you. So in fact, this directly influences trust and purchasing decisions, but also partnerships and the recruitment of people who might work with you. So you first need to do an audit. If someone ever asks you to improve their online reputation, start by doing an audit. So what I've set up is that when you sign up on this rank, you can modify the prompts and you can ask questions about a particular person. By doing this, we'll be able to track specifically what are the AI's opinions and where do these AI opinions actually come from. Do they come from review platforms? Do they come from the media? Do they come from social networks? Did they get hit with a media bashing in the press? Only even though these review platforms are doing just fine, it's important to know if AIs are saying anything about someone, where is that information coming from? For that, we'll need to analyze visibility, tone, and specifically what the AIs actually think about the person and where does it come from. We're going to control the SERP, and that's when we can start to take action. We're going to create content on, as I already showed you before, the parasites, so social networks, but also improving reviews, managing reviews, even deleting them if possible. If we can mobilize a community to add positive reviews on a platform, that's really, really good. It's very useful. I'm telling you this because I've already done it for several entrepreneurs. Next, we'll look at creating authoritative network content. On LinkedIn, you can create a lot of content that is directly linked to your name. We'll see how that's possible. The parasites, I just mentioned them. Reputations in AIs. So the AIs, let's say the only way to influence them is to solve the problems that exist on the net. And then it will rely on the results it finds. What's also very important is to talk about footprints. So, for example, if someone has had some slightly shady activities on the internet, it's possible they've left traces. And for that, we'll look for those traces. In fact, what we call footprints, so literally footprints, are simply traces that have been left behind. So a trace is a repetitive pattern. It's always the same one that's left every time a project is done. So for example, it could be a domain name. If, for example, she has a domain name that she included in the terms and conditions of all her sites, we'll be able to find it. And actually here, I've listed some queries you can use on the internet. If you type sitedomain.com with a domain name, you'll find all the URLs indexed on Google that are ranked. Same goes for addresses. The same applies to emails, phone numbers, and also to legal notices. Often, what entrepreneurs do is copy the legal notices from their site. Since it's under the same company, so just by using the legal notices, you can trace back to many websites that belong to the same company. Same for social networks, same for IP address hosting. And even more telling than that, there are analytics IDs. So for example, if someone uses the same Facebook pixels on several sites, then we can be absolutely sure it's the same person behind them. What I did for one of my clients was he had left the name of one of his companies. And so by finding the name of his company, I typed site dot and the company name, and I found a bunch of absolutely terrible sites. I listed all these sites in a database, and from there I thought, okay, are there any other things they have in common? And I had found a regular expression that kept coming up that they always used at the beginning of a sentence. I typed it into Google and I found other websites. So actually one footprint can lead to another, which can lead to another, and that's really a process. Manual like an ant's work, it's painstaking work and it can sell for a very high price. Now, how do you structure a high-performing SEO agency and above all, one that is profitable? So here, we're going to talk about several things. First of all, I'm not a lawyer, accountant, or tax advisor. I'm not a tax specialist. What I'm going to share with you is only what I have done myself. At no point is this what you must do, and you are grown and responsible adults. And what I'm going to share with you may contain mistakes, so I disclaim all responsibility. You are here, you are the CEO of your company. At the beginning, if you are in France, you probably want to start as a self-employed entrepreneur, and that's probably the best thing to do. Why? Because actually without acre, meaning without any assistance. So, which will allow you to cut your social contributions in half, you can still make quite a bit of money with the self-employed status in the agency model. Here, I've done quite a few calculations to share with you when you should switch to a company structure, and if you do switch to a company in France, how much you will be able to earn knowing that you will be taxed much more heavily. So the revenue cap for a micro enterprise providing services is 77,700 euros per year. Keep in mind that the VAT exemption threshold starts at 36,800 euros. So actually, you can go up to 39,100 euros, and after that, you are required to declare VAT. So if you are in a liberal profession BNC with one tax share and no other income without the ACRI benefit, you will have to pay 24.6% of your total revenue. So on 77,700, that comes to 19,114 euros. Then you will have income tax, which will be 8,550 euros per year. The total of charges plus income tax will come to 27,664 euros. So what's left before expenses will be about 50,000 euros in profit, roughly speaking. Next, if you have acre, which is something you can apply for when you start your business, you will then cut your social contributions in half. And so, in the end, you'll earn a little more, you'll make 59,600 euros per year. The major problem with micro enterprise agencies is that you pay charges on 100% of your turnover, even on the agent paid to the freelancer. So at that point, we assume that you had no expenses. You have no expenses, nothing at all. So if we ever move on, with a 30% team cost, so on a turnover of 77,000 euros, you have 23,300 euros in team expenses per year, which, after calculation, leaves you with 2,200 euros net per month for yourself. So here you go from almost 5,000 euros to 4,000 euros to 2,200 euros net per month if you have expenses. So honestly, it's better not to have any expenses and just have software that allows you to deliver everything, if that's possible, to really go for it. The more clients you can get, because 77,000 euros a year is doable, but you still have to work hard to be able to do everything on your own. Now, if you're about to exceed that revenue threshold and you want to move to an agency model, we can say, okay, when should you switch to a SASU or even leave France? If you want to leave France, that's an option that's becoming more and more accepted and less taboo. So for example, if you switch to a SASU, what I did in France was I had a SASU and a team of freelancers who accounted for 30% of my revenue, fixed costs that made up 10%, and the corporate tax in France, which is 25%. So dividends, 30%. This is income that a company can choose to pay out to its shareholders when it makes a profit. Personally, I hadn't decided to pay myself dividends. So let's imagine that now, instead of making 77,700 euros, we're making 180,000 euros. With a team at 30%, that's 54,000 euros in expenses. Other costs like software and everything else around it, the accountant, etc., that's going to be 18,000 euros. So the total deductible expenses come to 72,000 euros, 54 plus 18. So the net result before salary will be 100,000 euros or 108,000 euros. We're going to try to pay ourselves, so we'll pay ourselves a salary. 24,000 euros per year, which means 2,000 euros per month. The total cost for the company will be 43,000 euros, not quite double, but almost. And so the remainder, after salary, there will be 65,000 euros left. On 65,000 euros, there will be a 25% corporate tax, which is 16,000 euros in corporate tax. And so we'll have a distributable result of 48,700 euros. So we'll be able to pay ourselves dividends that amount to roughly 34,100 euros. So in the end, net, we receive 24,000 euros in net salary and dividends of 34,100 euros. So in the end, we have 58,000 euros per year. That's barely more than when we were making 77,000 euros in revenue as a micro entrepreneur. So it's something to think about. Everyone has their own opinion on that. But concretely here, we're making 180,000 euros in revenue. Okay, we have a bit more in expenses. Okay, so we have a team, but in the end, we earn just as much with potentially a lot more stress to manage in all this. What's nice about having a company, all things considered, is that you can deduct expenses. When you're an SEO agency, there's actually a big budget for backlinks. And pretty quickly, if you don't want to pay social contributions on the backlink budget for your clients, you have to have a company. If you really want to grow and also pay your team, the person who will sell your company, and the freelancers, that's what we call a contract. And it's important to have a contract to protect yourself. And above all, so that everything is very clear from the start with your freelancers, so they don't get reclassified. A clear contract between freelancers and companies avoids the risk of being reclassified as an employee in France. If the relationship looks like employment, URSSAF or a judge can reclassify it and demand back payment of contributions. The key point is the absence of a hierarchical relationship. The freelancer must remain independent. The contract should define the assignment, deliverables, deadlines, price, approval process, confidentiality, ownership of work, deliverables, invoicing, and termination. To be avoided, fixed working hours or mandatory presence, daily supervision like a manager instead of focusing on deliverables, integration as if they were an employee, internal email, access badges, imposed equipment, and monitoring time rather than results. In practical terms, if you have freelancers working full-time, if they have only one client, or if you've given them a company email address, URSSAF can come after you at any time and tell you this wasn't a freelancer, it was an employee. Everything you paid them now has to be considered as salary, and so you have to pay social security contributions on that salary, even if you're a sole proprietor, and that's really painful. Really painful. So you need to have a contract with your freelancer from the very beginning. so that everything is clear, the working methodology is clear, and the contract is not just a piece of paper. It has to reflect the actual reality in real life. Now that we've covered that, freelancers will need access to several things: the CRM, clients, maybe a company credit card if purchases need to be made, and clear processes. All of that is set up in the CRM except for the company credit card. LinkedIn, prospecting, if you have a virtual assistant, that's probably what you'll be hiring for soon. This is someone who will be able to handle things for you. Your LinkedIn, prospecting, sending messages. That's not really going to be a freelancer that you'll hire for operational tasks, but rather someone you'll bring on to help you find multiple clients. Let's talk again about execution. There are going to be two main types of organization that will be key to being productive. You have the serial assembly line type of organization. That's what we call it. And then you have parallel organization. So the assembly line organization is clearly where each freelancer has a specific job and all the clients go through that process. The advantage is that the quality is often consistent, but the downside is that there are often bottlenecks. If one freelancer is absent, everything comes to a halt. Whereas with parallel organization, each freelancer delivers to their own client. And if one day a freelancer is no longer there, we can redistribute their clients to other freelancers and the work continues. The only problem with this and what clients actually fear is that a freelancer might be junior and not follow the right processes for the clients they're handling. So people are often afraid of ending up with an intern who has no idea what they're doing. So both options have their drawbacks. Personally, I think the best approach is to have a hybrid process. That means when there are big, complex tasks, like development tasks, you have an in-house developer you can call on whenever you need, but all the other freelancers follow the same process and use the same software. They can easily deliver for all clients in the same way. And now I'm going to recommend a few tools that will help you save time. So in your typical software stack, you're going to have different needs, and those needs have to be addressed with the right tools. So for your invoicing, I always recommend Stripe to automatically collect payments from your clients, even if it's a bit expensive. For recording your calls, always TLDV, because Firefly is pretty good, but honestly, it's a bit more expensive. To create your agency website, I highly recommend Webflow because it's easy to maintain for SEO purposes. Lovable is really great because it's fast, but on the other hand, it's built with React. So if you want to work on your SEO in the future, there might be some issues. React isn't always visible to AI bots. Next, for your booking calendar, I know Calendly is free, but it's actually very costly. You end up losing a lot of leads that you can't follow up with. Just because there weren't any available time slots on your calendar that suited them. iClose lets you capture all the leads. And of course, if you want access to all these tools, you can simply click on the first link in the description to get all the resources and sign up for this tier. For acquisition, Instagram, it's hard to go viral and stay relevant, whereas on LinkedIn, your audience is highly qualified. Now that we've talked about external tools, let's talk about internal tools that are directly related to all the deliverability we discussed in the previous point. I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list of all these tools here. You're not just going to save more than 1,033 euros per month, you'll also save 89 hours of work. 89 hours at minimum wage is 1,068 euros. That adds up to more than 2,101 euros per month. So over a year, that's more than 24,000 euros saved thanks to this rank. We're talking about a subscription of 99 euros per month per client at minimum. Then there are bigger plans if you want to offer more extensive services for them. If you want to have everything in one place and stop switching from one tab to another, copying and pasting, spending your time on Canva for reporting, or trying to figure out geo-analyses from American software, switch to this rank and you'll have everything in a single unified location. Now let's move on to the last three pillars of this extensive presentation. We're going to talk about communication. First, communication with your team. For that, to communicate with your different SEO freelancers, I recommend several platforms. First, WhatsApp. It's really essential to have a group with all the members of your SEO team so that whenever you have a problem or a new client, you can notify everyone, celebrate victories, and also share process changes and quickly inform the team. Slack, honestly, I've always hated it. It's complicated. Clients never use it. Your freelancers. It might be useful for reporting things, but honestly, I think Slack is the wrong choice. Between the two, between emails and WhatsApp, I really prefer WhatsApp. And finally, to stay in touch quickly and to make sure your freelancers are working well, you can install Gather. Personally, I think it's great because you can directly go and ask someone for information. To explain, it's kind of like a virtual world where everyone has their own desk. And if someone gets too close to you, it will activate your camera and make it happen. Ring. Calls with freelancers, you need to have 2. You shouldn't have just 1, and you shouldn't have 3. 2 is really the ideal number that we set up at the agency. That is, we do 1 call on Monday and another one, usually on Thursday or Friday. Thursday is a good day for the call because that way on Friday there can be catch-ups for Monday. And on Monday, we really hit the ground running. If a freelancer has any unexpected issues, they can note them themselves on their sheet because, of course, this rank includes that. A management system for your freelancers, including their pay, the invoices they need to send you, and their performance, as well as any delays on audit tasks. You'll be able to add notes about them, which they won't be able to see. These will be for you only. And they can also add information, however, which you will see if they have anything to report, to bring to your attention. If you need to communicate with your marketing team, editor or setter, in that case, I just recommend creating another WhatsApp group. So I don't recommend mixing everyone together because there's not much point unless you really want to foster team cohesion. But since there's often quite a bit of turnover in these editor and setter positions, I don't recommend mixing everyone together. Now that we've covered communication with your team, here's how to communicate with your clients. So clients often communicate in different ways for different things. We communicate on different platforms. Again, I really don't recommend Slack unless your clients specifically ask for it. We've had some clients request Slack, but that was really only about 2% of all the clients we've had. Otherwise, everyone loves WhatsApp and email for documents that need to be kept over time, like invoices, quotes, and so on. For delivered work, we used to use Google Sheets and would create Google Docs to explain the tasks we had completed. Then we would present the results in a Canva or a Google slide. Or sometimes we would put everything into a Looker Studio, connected dynamically, but it was never really what the client expected. We were constantly making adjustments and the client always had a lot of questions for us. And for invoicing, we managed everything by email, sending PDFs every week or sometimes through Stripe. What we're offering you here with our new communication method is that everything is structured before your call. No matter when you need to notify the client, all the features are connected to the portal from the client side, and they can be sent by email with just 1 click. Invoices are connected, reports are connected, we have call replays, prompts, progress tracking, and completed actions. You no longer need to prepare lengthy audits that take up your time and don't really bring you any value. Let's move on to recruitment, since we've already explained how to manage your team and communicate with your clients. As for recruitment, I'm not a recruitment expert and I don't think I'm the best manager, far from it. But on the other hand, I do have quite a few strategies for finding highly competent and truly qualified people on LinkedIn. As for my own strategy, I've tried the basic platforms like Upwork, Fiverr, and it's always very disappointing, whereas directly on LinkedIn, I really find some great people. So here you have the whole process, which I could read out to you if you'd like. So first we're going to define our entire process with all the message templates. Once we've defined the message templates, we'll set the objective for the position along with a sample video we've made. Next, we'll go directly on LinkedIn to search for people in the locations we're targeting. So often these are places where people speak French and cost less than people from France. So often it's Morocco, Madagascar, Algeria, and the Philippines. Next, we'll send out as many invitations as possible to lots of people with the message. The message will actually redirect them to a form. The form will allow them to provide lots of valuable information like their portfolio, experience, availability, and their rate. Once the person has filled that out, they will be redirected to a confirmation call, which will allow you to schedule a 15-minute call with them. 15 minutes is already a bit too long. Personally, I would have preferred 5 to 10 minutes, but unfortunately, we can't do that on Google Calendar. Here, we'll have all the calls I've already had with everyone, and what I look at. The most important thing is the speed of the response. Does the person catch on quickly or not? If not, it's not a big deal. I wish them all the best. But what's really important, on the other hand, is to keep everyone informed. They're still human beings, even if they're maybe less competent than you. They're still human, and you still have to let them know whether they've been selected or not. And honestly, it can go really, really fast. In 1 week, you can hire someone or at least test several people, test each person for a day. At the end of the week, choose one person. Keep in touch with the others. Now let's move on to the last point, valuation. How can you improve your agency's valuation? And that's a question I was asked when I was interested in possibly selling my SEO agency. So first of all, annual revenue and growth. That's basically what the company will use along with net margin to determine whether your agency can be valued or not. Next, your client distribution. This is super important. You shouldn't have any clients accounting for more than 15% of your revenue, otherwise it's a bit risky. Ideally, you should have a lot of clients who each represent just a small portion, so if you lose a few clients, it's not a big deal. Next, net margin. This is really what will determine most of the value. At the end of the year, is there cash left in your company's bank account? And above all, do you have financial statements to present? Because you can show as many dashboards as you want, as many Stripe reports as you want. What they want is a financial statement with EBITDA at the bottom of the table. Then fixed costs versus variable costs. How are you evolving? What costs money in your business? Of course, there's that, and then there are the controlled channels. What are your acquisition methods? It all depends on your profile. LinkedIn, often, that's risky. I recommend this to you because it's what allows you to find as many clients as possible. But as soon as you pass the thresholds of 20, 30, 40,000 euros in revenue, maybe you'll need to think about really developing an acquisition channel that's not at all tied to your personal brand. And that's really a whole different game, change for valuation purposes. Because I've been on calls with people who wanted to buy my agency and they told me, your agency has no value because it depends on your face. Are your methods standardized? Do you have a repeatable method, one that is always consistent and always delivers the same results for your clients? It's very complicated to sell an agency if everything is based on the talents of just 3 or 4 freelancers. Because if those freelancers leave tomorrow, the agency can no longer deliver results. Next, the cost of acquisition. How much do you spend to acquire a new client? What does it actually cost you? How much does it cost you in terms of hourly rate to make a LinkedIn post, to make a YouTube video? In the beginning, it's complicated because we're working at our own hourly rate, so we don't really know what our hourly rate is. At first, we're still trying to figure things out. But in the end, when you try to delegate, you quickly realize what the hourly rate is going to be. Next, dependence on a single channel. If you have only one acquisition channel, that's also something dangerous because you're just one algorithm penalty or one banned account away from trouble. Next, the number of clients. This ties directly into client distribution. From my experience, buyers prefer to have lots and lots of small clients rather than just a few big ones. Next, is production delegated or not? Is the founder essential to production or not? There are still a lot of agencies out there where the founder is essential to production or essential to management. Finally, are the contracts with clients long-term? This was mentioned to me on every call and I was really surprised. The commitments they talked to me about on the calls were not for 6 to 12 months. They were for a minimum of 12 to 24 months. If your commitments with your clients are less than 6 months, it's not even considered real clientele. For buyers, you really need to have long-term contracts, so they can be sure the business will keep growing steadily with the same revenue. And finally, last point, have you developed any in-house tools? This adds a lot of value to your company if you have your own tools. However, it's a double-edged sword. If it works well, it brings you a lot of value. If it doesn't work well, it can actually drag your company down because your profitability will decrease. We have reached the end of this video. I'm completely exhausted. I hope you enjoyed it. Just so you know, I've made additional videos for each chapter. They're all available on this rank. There are other bonuses I can't reveal here, which are directly accessible over there. In any case, thank you for liking, commenting, and watching this video all the way to the end, even though it was long. Right now, at my place, it's 3:58 in the morning. I'm exhausted, but I wish you an excellent day. There's a lot of money out there to go get, and I'm going to be your best ally, your business partner, by developing the best software for you and your team. I wish you an excellent day. As for me, I'm going to bed. This was Thibaut. See you soon for even more SEO, even more AI, and even more results. All right, ciao.